Ladies and gentlemen, this is Julien Masson from Adrenaline Combatives, and I'm here with Mr. Joe Moore, Tommy Joe Moore.
Solid start. Solid start.
I butchered that. Sorry, bro. How you doing, bro?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Tommy Joe Moore, put those words in any order you like. It's still basically the same name.
That's it.
So good.
Tommy Joe Moore. I wanted to put the sir before, make
Of
it
course.
like
Of
very
course.
gentlemanly, like Sir Tommy Joe Moore to you. Yeah, man. Do you want to give us a little introduction, Tommy?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Tommy Joe Moore. For people that are likely to recognize me, they'll recognize me from my work in mostly historically based martial arts systems. So, I've done books, presentations, seminars, workshops on the arts of Bartitsu, so the Victorian arts of self protection, World War II combatives, and the materials and the training methodology of that. And also more modern day, how to apply the tool of boxing, because I'm an actively competing boxer in a self-protection format. But man, I love all of it. I love combat sports. I love traditional martial arts. I love combatives. I'm doing all that stuff all the time. I don't see a huge difference between them, and I love each and every one, like small children. Each one of them has got something for me, which I absolutely adore about martial arts. I think it's a phenomenal thing to be interested in and can go as deep and as fascinating as you allow it to go.
Yeah. That's amazing. And that's one thing I respect about you, man, is the fact that you got no judgments towards, certain type of martial arts. This, you got always people like, oh, that martial art is better than that one and that one. But if you can recognize that every single martial art has got something to offer, and it all got to do with the context in which it's used and the environment and the context in which it's used, because some martial arts were taking in consideration certain environments, certain way that how people were dressed. If people were wearing big armors and stuff like that, they couldn't move a certain way, so they could only move a certain way, and then it became a martial art. And so yes, when you think about it, when you're open minded, you can see the value in all these arts. And it's great because you have a look at, obviously it's the same for you. I can tell that you got the wrestling, you got the striking, the boxing, and then you got the weaponry and all that stuff, which is really the three main things on the trinity. And so do you want to tell us a little bit, where were you born? You were born most probably in the UK, in
Yeah,
England.
yeah. So I'm British for global audiences.
Mm.
So as you might be able to tell from the accent, if I'm wearing a posh tweed suit, I'll ramp up the Britishness dial. I sound a bit posher
Yeah.
than I really am. But yeah, so I'm from around this neck of the woods. My first arts were boxing and judo,
Mm.
which I've stuck with for a very very long time. The judo I kind of reduced down kind of at and after university stages, but the boxing I've done consistently since age 5 till today.
Mm.
And it's something I fundamentally love. And I've picked up lots and lots of different arts and approaches in between. I like to think of myself as an educated shopper when it comes to martial arts, in
Yeah.
that I was always fascinated enough and knew enough to select what I wanted or needed at the
Mm.
time I wanted and needed it. So, for example, I did a lot of time Thai boxing with Eddie Quinn, with Bob Spur, because in the West Midlands, there's a big Thai boxing community. It's a big, you got Manchester, Birmingham. Those were the kind of two big hubs of Thai boxing in
Leeds.
the
Yeah.
80s, 90s. So the North and the Midlands were a big boom town for it.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing. It put me, Eddie Quinn is a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal human being. So I was really, really lucky.
I never met him, but I've spoke with him a few times, and I've always had a very good vibes from the man.
Yeah, exactly. So I was quite fortunate in that my early direction in judo and boxing meant that when I was shopping, I wasn't falling for some of the traps that catch
Mm.
other people, like, oh, I'll do some taekwondo and think it will keep me safe. Like a lot of people, if they're not an informed shopper of what they're looking for, they find themselves in arts that don't really fit what they want. Could be a good
Yeah.
art, but it doesn't fit what they want. But it's always whether it's been kind of Warriors of Screamer, whether it's been prior pitcher Muay Thai, whether it's been Jeet Kune Do with Nigel Trotman, I've always, Savat with Alain Jean Baptiste, amazing guy. So I loved Savat. I love Thai boxing.
Mm.
Those have all been modules that I've plugged in and plugged out. as and when I've needed them. Boxing and judo have been my constants. I've always loved those. And increasingly, I have to dial up or dial down what I do. I'm still competing as a boxer. I haven't got a huge amount of years left being able to do that for very long. So as my combat sports dial goes down a bit, my combative style goes up a bit, and that's natural. That's normal.
Yeah.
And so for me, I dial up and down what I'm interested in and what I spend my time in. But like you said, hitting stuff, chucking people, using weapons. And if you can do all three and not look like an idiot, you're doing martial arts all right. It all boils down to these things. Hitting folk, chucking folk, using stabby or sticky things.
Yeah. No, yeah, I do agree with that. That's pretty much also the trinity of adrenaline combatives as well. Like solid striking game, solid wrestling game, and solid weaponry game, and understanding the ranges and stuff like that, and how to do it right.
And I'm still shopping. Like one of the things that I've taken up relatively recently is sumo, and I love it.
Yeah, I've seen that, bro.
I'm really digging the sumo. Like I don't have the wherewithal in my knees, in my hips to be chucked and slammed like I used to. But with the sumo, I can still get solid, high pressure, high power grappling.
Yeah.
I can use what I'm good at, which is the striking in my grappling, because I can slap and I can palm heel whilst grappling. So that's cool. And it's a good accessible format where you can just rock up, compete, fight. Cool. And there's a big dudes in it, which I'm a big dude. And so being able to be hit by and struck by people that are many kilos heavier than me, that's important. There's no point me dragging around a 60-kilo person. It's stupid, but me having to chuck a 140-kilo person, that's more like it. That's what it needs to be. So yeah, I love it. So I'm always searching for things I can engage with and explore. And sometimes I go back to old things that I haven't engaged with in a while. It's been too long since I've done weapon stuff, so I might hit up my friend Tom Pena and do some Filipino stuff.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy as well, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very fortunate that because I don't tend to make enemies easily in martial arts, I've got a lot of good martial arts friends. So if there's things I want to polish off, I can just be like, yo, it's been too long since I've done X, Y, Z. Can we do something? And they're like, yeah, cool. I was just speaking to Brett earlier today. I haven't done gun stuff in a while because I've been focusing on competing. Can we go do some gun stuff soon? He's like, yeah, wicked, let's do it. It's what it allows me to plug into stuff. I'm just going to shut my work teams up. Go away, work. Your time has passed. But yeah, so I've been very fortunate with the people and connections I've had and made and maintained.
Do you feel like I feel the same as well. It's like, it's funny because I just let that thing go on autopilot. It's like the way that you train and what you train and when you train it, it's like cycles. One cycle starts and it's the weaponry cycle. And for 2-3 months, I'm going to be interested in doing new things with the weapons and testing this and just, inventing new stuff. And then after 3 months, I get bored of that. So I put this stuff to the side. And then that cycle ends, and then the new cycle starts where like I want to start working on my boxing now and my footwork and my head movements and stuff, which is where I am now. And I think that cycle is still there, but because of the health and stuff, we'll see what happens. But and it's always like a cycle after cycle after cycle, and you realize in 1 year you've spent maybe 3 months working on your striking, 3 months working on your weaponry, 3 months working on your grappling, and so on and so on. And at the end, you just look back and you're like, all right, it's got this little element that I put together to create my own my toolbox, basically.
There's a really good phrase called specialisms are for insects. Insects get good at doing one thing really well. Really well. Centipede's going to do centipede shit. Praying mantis going to do praying mantis, but they're only really good. Their brains can only comprehend being one thing. We're a weapons grade monkey with a supercomputer in our heads. We can do and handle being good at lots of stuff. So why wouldn't we?
For sure.
Force themselves into small boxes, and if you've got the will and attitude to do it, you can explore huge amounts of content. You can learn as much as you like, as long as it fits what you want to do. That's cool. So yeah, I think if you over specialize, sometimes you can miss out on all of the great stuff that's out there. You'll be brilliant in one field, and if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But I think for a lot of people,
it's
Being more general and open is important.
I think it's true, but it's kind of finding the balance between, pardon me, it's kind of finding the balance between being good at just one thing and just train like Bruce Lee used to say, train a kick 10,000 times, like 100,000 times, and become really good at that stuff rather than just training a lot of things just one or two times. But it's also being complete, and that's where right now I'm kind of going to a certain type of logic now, which I had for quite a while, but I'm implementing it now, which is I'm saying to myself, right, I'm looking at all the hybrid self-defense combatives arts out there, and I feel like I kind of went full circle already. I look at it and I'm like, it's pretty much all the same. It's different in variation because the different people move different ways and stuff, different way to explain stuff. But in terms of the concept and the principles, they're the same. And eventually you go full circle. And I'm saying to myself right now, the real skill set, the real skill set is the MMA skill set. I mean, that's what I'm thinking right now, and that's where I'm going. Because imagine, okay, you understand the concept and principles to deal with street altercation. You understand pre-contact cues. You understand pre-fights, in-fight, post-fight, and you really understand those enough to be able to teach that stuff and to apply it. Then what else do you need? You just need to be good at the basics, and you just need to be good at striking and be good at throwing people, be good at wrestling. And that's why I think the real skill set is in MMA. I'm not saying that that you can do everything with MMA. I'm saying that if you have the combative principle and you have the MMA skill set, now you have something really serious. Now you have something that you can make it work rather than just focus on one and become really good at one, or just focusing on the other and become really good at the other. I think that if you have both and you become really good at both, then you can become a really dangerous person.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
it's unequivocal. You can't argue with it. The evidence is out there.
Yeah.
I always say do the daughter test. You know, a random human is gonna you have to pick someone to fight to the death. A random human on this planet. You're
Mm.
gonna pick. You know, I'm gonna pick John Jones or someone like a John Jones to fight on my behalf. I'm not gonna pick a super specialist in just one area. You know, I want to pick someone that's entirely martial in everything they do. They can strike, they grapple, they can do it all. And
Mm.
they've tested it, proved it, believe in it. You know, if you needed someone to fight for your life on your behalf, and you had to pick a style or a subset to choose from, you'd be stupid to pick anything but MMA, wouldn't you? You'd be
Yeah.
completely stupid.
Because these are the guys that from day one, if you drop your hands, you get punched in the face.
Yeah,
From day one, if you don't have a solid base and you ground it to the ground, you're gonna get thrown. So from day one, basically, you're gonna get your ass
and the
kicked.
difference I think is that with MMA today, people are
Mm,
growing up having just done that. Whereas historically, you'd be like, I'm a really good Thai boxer and
mm,
I'll plug in some BJJ and wrestling, or I'm a really good wrestler and I'll plug in some boxing, Thai boxing, whatever. You
yeah,
know, that's how it used to be. You'd be good at one
yeah,
thing and then you'd get okay at other stuff. Now, you know, a 7-year-old goes to start junior MMA. By the time they're 19, they've got kind of elite boxing, elite kickboxing, elite wrestling, elite BJJ, you know, that all
yeah,
their skills have leveled up together.
yeah,
And that makes them just dangerous because what
yeah,
they're good at is the alchemy between that. You know, they're never gonna in the boxing they'll do in MMA, they're never gonna win a boxing belt or championship. But
yeah,
what they will do is know how to do that as you grapple with the risk of grappling. You know,
yeah,
how they blend the things together, that's where the magic is. And if
yeah,
you've only ever done mixed martial arts, you're very good at those bits of magic that just
yeah. Because the stance will be twitched in such a way because you're getting kicked. It's the same. Like, look, for example, if you take a boxing guard against a Thai boxer, your legs are gonna get absolutely blasted
yeah,
because you're too side on. But now if you get a Thai boxing stance in MMA, you're gonna get taken to the ground really
yeah.
easily. So it's like kind of finding the just a little mixture between both, isn't it?
Yeah, and the reactionary speed, you move that way, I move this. It's like clocking that your stance has narrowed a bit, which means a strike is coming. Your stance has deepened a bit, which means you might
Mm,
go for they get a good fighter's eye for what's coming
yeah,
based on your bearing, how you're turning, that small, subtle influence. They can read it well. So yeah, I think MMA's popularity is phenomenal, and I don't think it takes anything away from traditional martial arts, because for a lot of people, they might start with something rough and robust like MMA
mm,
and finish in something like karate, and it would have benefited their karate. There's always different times of your life are suitable for different types of training and arts.
yeah,
Um, and if you're a lifelong martial artist, that's the best place to be, because you can move through the rough stuff, the combative stuff, the traditional stuff. The earlier you start, the more wonderful the experience, I think.
I wish I had started, the competition side of things and
Mhm.
fighting earlier. I don't think I've done enough of it. I've done some of it enough to know that I can look after myself, but not enough to be satisfied with it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And that's why, like, right now, if my health comes, not if, fucking when my health comes back, that's what I want to do eventually, before I get in my 42, 43. Do you know what I mean? I want to get a bit of that while I can, because I think that this, first of all, it's an ego breaker. It's a very humbling game. When you go sparring in the gym, there's always going to be people that are better than you. There's always going to be the top guys at the gym that are going to be helping you out. And when you spar them, you're going to have to keep your ego in check, because that's the only way. And I like this feeling of being able to go to, it's like you spar with somebody that's better than you, and then after you spar with somebody that's not as good as you, and
yeah,
you see yourself changing. Like, now you become the student, now you become the guy that's helping that guy out. Now you're being helped. Now you're helping that guy out. It kind of changes the dynamic in your head when you start sparring with people. The,
absolutely. And
the,
it gives you, if you're not going to make violence your profession, and let's be honest, most violent professions are terribly paid and really dangerous,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
shouldn't do it unless you really have to. For most people, like,
yeah,
don't choose a violent profession. There's easier ways to make dollar, if you really
yeah.
want to do it. So if it's not your profession, then competition is one of the only ways you're ever going to get that fear and buzz and spike
Mm,
that you need to know that you can handle it when people want to significantly hurt you.
yeah,
Because if you make it your profession, you put yourself at risk for not great reward and benefit, really.
yeah. It's for the
Yeah,
love of it mainly. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Unless you really love being a bouncer or a bodyguard or so. I always worry when people say, "Oh, try it on for size." Go be a bouncer for a couple of years and see what it's like. Do a lot of those skills. If you don't love it, it's not worth it. Like, it's not really, really
I,
worth
I, I,
dangerous day of kicking out a bunch of 17-year-old lads that might come
yeah,
back and stab you for a little bit of extra work experience. For
yeah.
me, it's like, you should love it and want to do that if you're going to do it.
Yeah, I tell you what, the doors for me. I mean, I started doing the doors in Eastern Europe. I've been doing it on and off, but basically, when I was doing it in Eastern Europe, that's really when I had my wake up call and when I really learned the most, because it was completely different. The stuff we got away with in Eastern Europe, you'd get jailed in this country, like. But the thing it was that for me, it was a way to test myself and face my fear of violence and see how I deal with that. And recently, I just had enough of it. I'll be honest with you. It's
Yeah,
just dealing with drunk people does my head in. It really does. Do you know what
yeah.
I mean?
Drunk
Uh,
people are awful. They're just awful
Exactly.
human beings. And if you're sober, they're even more awful. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But I think it's always be mindful of where you get your experience, and is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, if you
Yeah.
if you want, I want some adrenaline and I want to get battered a bit and know I won't die. There's
Mm.
easier things to do to
Yeah.
get that are less likely to result in you being dead.
Yeah.
So my advice to people: be careful where you get your experience, and be a mindful shopper of what you're getting into.
For sure. Do you know that feeling? Okay, the feeling when you get on the ring, and just at the moment when you got your song is coming and you're walking, it's like you might be focused, but in your head you're like, fuck. Do you know what I mean? You're like, ugh. And then you get on the ring, and as soon as the bell goes, that's it. It's all the noise is gone. Like
Yeah,
you're doing your thing. Uh, that feeling of adrenaline is completely different than the feeling of adrenaline where you see, like, even when you're not involved, but you're on the doors and you're seeing that guy getting his head kicked by four guys, and you kind of you can't even intervene there because there's many reasons why, but maybe it's a bit further down the road, and at
Yeah.
that point professionally it's not even your fucking business anymore. You just need to wait for the police. But when you that sort of feeling, where you, like, the guy could get brain damaged, the guy could get dead, paralyzed for life, and stuff like that. It's completely different, man. The
Yeah.
the way that it feels like. Anyway, screw the door. Let's screw the door. Let's speak about fight IQ, man.
Mhm. Okay.
So the fight IQ. When we think about being able to be that relaxed in a fight, and some people are amazing at being relaxed in the fight. Okay, when you can be that relaxed that you can now the blood start flowing a little bit at the front here, and you can start doing some decisions to a certain degree. You can start seeing what the guy in front of you is doing, and you can start chess playing.
Yeah.
You know? How do you see that? How do you train that? Is that something that comes naturally to you? Is that something that you can train? And if you how do you train it?
It's very difficult to train because nothing really like fighting gives you the fog of fighting. You know, the
Mm.
all the because you can have heavy intensive sparring sessions where the contact is basically like a fight,
Yeah,
but you still know it's sparring and you still know that there's going to be boundaries and stuff. You know, like you still know what the game is. So I always struggle that just upping your intensity doesn't give you those kind of shifting blood of fear
yeah,
that doing it is. I really personally believe the only way to get inured to it is the experience of doing it, and I don't think much comes close to real fighting as fighting. So if you're gonna fight in a ring and you want to get better at fighting a ring,
yeah,
every couple of weeks you have to show up at some bloody show, get in the ring. You get better in increments, like
yeah.
minuscule increments. I don't think there's a big learning spike in combat sports. I
Mm.
think it's go to a shitty local show and have a fight and do okay. Then a
Yeah.
month later you'll do a bit more okay and a bit more okay until because human bodies, they're hugely adaptive. They get
Mm.
better at the things we choose to make it do. So you have to choose to make it do that thing. I don't think there's many substitutions for it, really. If you want to get as a soldier better at being under fire, you're gonna have to be under fire. If
Yeah,
you want to get better at being a doorman and handling high stress conversations, you're gonna just have to do that. No matter how much practice you do in your you're still gonna have to do it. The only value is in experience.
yeah. The better preparation for the event is the event itself, isn't it?
Exactly. And so for me, one of my main concerns for people is they spend too long waiting to have a go at the main event. There's a
Mm.
lot of guys that I box with, and there's a guy at my boxing gym that's been training for an MMA fight, but he's been training for an MMA fight for like 4 fucking years now. And like, good God, young man, just have a fucking MMA. Go to a shitty show, go to some fucking place in
Like
Rome.
an interclub. Do a few
Yeah, go
interclubs.
to Runcorn, put on some mate. Just have a you've built it so much now. It's become like your first fight's against GSP. It's not. It's against like Dave, who's a bricklayer. Who's been doing it for like 4 months. I think for a lot of people, they shy away from the proofing in the pudding. You just
Yeah.
got to do it. So for me, the sooner you can safely do it, the sooner you can safely compete. Just get on and have a go. Yeah,
Mm.
and plus, people are going to judge you if you've been training for 5 years and then you compete and then you fuck up. People will be like, "What have you done for 5 years?
Yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah.
been training for 4 months." They're like, "Fair play, he's done 4 months." He's doing all right.
Yeah, yeah.
The more you build it yourself, the more the psychological pressure is for you to perform. Just get out there and do the thing. If you've had a go at grappling, just enter a local kind of local no-gi BJJ tournament. Have a play. Mess around. What's the worst that's really going to happen? But I think for building fight IQ, fight
Yeah.
experience, if we were to say name intelligent fighters, all of those fighters have fought a lot. If you were to
Yeah.
say, you look, people instantly will say like Mike Tyson. Well, if you look at Mike Tyson's early fight
Mm.
record, every week. Boom, boom, boom. Small shows, medium shows.
Yeah.
That's how you get the fight IQ. It's not just customato saying some clever words. It's
Yeah.
We'll put you in the car, drive you there, you'll have a scrap, and we'll do it again next week and the week after. So for me, it's doing the thing, building in the frequency, because that's how humans get inured to it. If you want to get better at living in cold conditions, you got to go there. You can't just stare into the fridge. You got to move to Norway. You can't just be like, there's only so much you can rub peas on your face and think that's preparing you for Everest. Eventually, you're gonna have to go climb some mountains that are cold.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It's it's a bit like jumping out of an airplane. You're like fucking holding yourself to the finger. You're like, oh fuck, should I jump? Should I not?
Yeah, it's like our man Yoda says, isn't it? Do it or do not. There is no try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Mr. Miyagi, walk on the left side of the road, safe. Right side, safe. In the middle, you're going to get smashed. So you're either doing it, I'm getting ready for a fight, or you're not. And that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
Don't fanny about in the middle.
Yeah.
Get on it.
No, that's one thing for sure, man. I was actually thinking about this, the fighting IQ, because when you start sparring, you can get nervous, especially when you spar with people that are a bit stupid. You have people that are better than you slightly, or maybe a bit more better than you, and that are being a bit stupid and full of ego and that like to just go hard at first. That's why when I spar with like a new guy, I really try and it's not about me as much, it's really about kind of showing them what they can do, sort of thing. So that it's like if you throw somebody into the lion pit straight away, they're never going to come back. They're going to hate you for it, and they're never going to come back. Do you know what I mean? They're going to think, oh shit, Thai boxing is not for me. MMA is not for me. Boxing is not for me. I hated it. Blah, 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 blah. And they're never going to come back. And so you have screwed somebody's perception of something that's great just because you're being a prick. Yeah. But I mean, not you, not me, but certain people are like that.
And pretty much all the elite guys, they do objective-led sparring. So most of the elite boxing gyms in the world, there's very little completely free sparring as if it was a match. There's nearly always some type of programming or conditioning you're trying to do. You might not tell both parties. You might only tell one party, look, I want you focusing on the jab. I want you focusing on footwork.
Yeah. Head movement.
Very, very rarely will two people at elite gyms just have at it, because it's diminishing returns. You'll just you'll be like bloody Beyblade, just smashing against each other over and over again. Most good gyms have objective-led sparring where both parties get some good out of it, even if one's vastly superior and one's inferior.
Yeah,
good sparring, both benefit from, and it's a wise coach that knows how to turn the dials. They're like the master DJ on the decks. And if they're not on the decks, if your coach is just saying 5 rounds free sparring, crack on, lads.
Yeah,
you'll get a little bit of conditioning. You'll start to learn stuff yourself. But I'd hardly say that's good value for money from your coach.
No, for sure.
Should be watching you with an eagle eye. And like, right, next 3 rounds, you're just throwing nothing but left hooks, son. Like they need to read you. That's what a good coach does. Otherwise, you're just having a shit fight. Training.
Do you know what? That's. I mean, that was going to be the main topic of the podcast today. Was what makes a good teacher, and that what you just said now. For example, I mean, I remember when I was doing when I first started Thai boxing. Yeah, we had some drills where he was saying, okay, the guy in front of you, you only kick, and you can only punch. Yeah, and then we'll change. Or you can only do this and you can only do that. Kind of isolate certain things, and then you can change it and then put it together. So I think that's a really good approach. It's like it comes from chunking things down so that they're easier to learn, more digestible for your student, and then eventually you put it back together so that now you got the finished product and you're like, oh shit, I can do all that now. But it took me to isolate the jab, isolate the left hook, isolate the right hand, isolate my head movements or my footwork. So how do you do that, man? When you play, let's say if you teach your students boxing, let's just talk about boxing. Yeah. What would you get them to work on first? I'd say footwork, footwork, stance, footwork, head movement.
Really depends. I mean, the great thing about boxing is that you can take the time to have a look at people, because people's perception of being instructed in boxing is different from martial arts. You go
Yeah.
to any martial arts club and they'll be like, stand here, move your fist precisely 47 degrees.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
your hand at exactly this angle.
Yeah.
Most of the times at a boxing gym, you won't get spoken to for weeks, maybe months. And the old geezer will walk around and he'll go, duck your chin. And that's all you'll hear for
Yeah.
like the next 3 months. And then after that, he'll be like, look, when you're jabbing, tuck your elbow in, you dickhead. And that'll be another 4 months. So I think because it gives people permission to play. So the first thing I do is I give people some basic shapes. And I'm like, look, have a play with that. I'm going to watch you. So I'm not going to spend 3 hours going through all the minute variations of a jab. I'll be like, pop, that's a jab. That's what it's for. Do it, and I'm going to watch you. And then I will start to ascertain whether have they got good balance or not, good posture, good
Yeah.
hip torque or not. So often the art of being a good coach, I think, is giving people the basic shapes, but stepping the fuck back, because we tend to fire blanket people straight away and overcorrect. Let them play, man. Let them play. Observe.
Do you know what you just said now? That's exactly where I was getting at. And that's something that I have to actually remind myself as an instructor, because I want so much my student to do well and to get the right body mechanics, the correct application of body mechanics, build a kinetic chain, all that stuff. And I try to really break it down to them. But sometimes I need to remind myself, like, look, dude, he's not taking all that information in. It's too early. Just let him stand and do a bit, and then you'll refine it. You'll bring those micro adjustments so that and you realize that's what we did.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember your first jab? I remember the first time I tried to jab something like some years and years ago. That jab looked completely different than it looked a month later, and a month later, and a month later, and then what? Even now, I'm still micro adjusting my jab. I'm still working on the micro adjustments.
So I think a good thing to understand is the value of soft coaching. So soft coaching is where you don't over explain everything. You take a step back and you observe. And for example, if you're teaching in a group environment, you might find a group fault. So a group fault might be 3 out of the 10 people here are dropping their jab on the way back, right? I'm not going to move around and tell each one of those bastards and make them feel like a bag of shit, but I might group coach and say, look, some things I've observed. Boom. Or I might do it and say, observe me. What am I doing wrong? What risks does it put me in? I think a good instructor, a good teacher questions more than he tells. You know, I could say, don't drop your hand and you'll learn something. If I say, what does this put me at risk of? That makes them think. They've got to look at the problem in a 360 format. So I always advise, it's called the Socratic method, you know, ancient Greek method of finding out the truth.
Yeah.
A good instructor, a good teacher, a good coach asks questions and avoids making statements. Sometimes you do have to make statements, but you should really look at your ratio. If you're saying, do this, then this, then this, then this, the cognitive load is too much. So having good questions as a coach is a really important skill to have. You know, what are some of the risks with the footwork here? Right. Go away as a group of people now. 5 minutes, discuss. Come back to me. What are some of the risks of having my too close together? You know, what are some of the risks or rewards of making sure I'm more upright as opposed to tucked? You know, letting them know that there's no concrete answer as well.
Yeah.
There's no solid. I just want you to use your own problem-solving skills. So more questions than statements.
I like that.
Better instructing.
I'll definitely use that, bro. I like that. Do you know what? Sometimes I'm looking at old videos that I have in my archives of old seminars that I taught. And at some point, you know, the way that I was talking to students before, and I didn't mean bad or anything like that, but now I'm looking at myself like some 10, 15 years ago when I was teaching, and I was like, you shouldn't have said it. You shouldn't have said this like that, because you might have made the student feel bad about himself. And that's not what that's not what I wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? But now that I'm a bit more wise, I'm a bit more experienced at teaching, I'm like, I should have formulated that differently, because he would have gained more out of it if I would have formulated that differently. Because sometimes you take the risk to make the student feel bad about themselves, especially with people like myself that suffered with ADHD and autism and stuff like that, it's if I'm very self-criticizing, and I always have been. If I do something, I want to do it right, and if I don't do it right, I get upset with myself quite easily. And I know that's not very good, but that's just my mentality. And so I know that if I was learning from someone and somebody shouts at me, and I'm thinking of someone in particular who's one of my best friends and is 3-time world champion in Thai boxing, one of the best fighters I know. He's a great guy. And he's just very, very strict. He'll shout at you if you don't do things right. He'll look at you and say, "What the fuck is that?" And in my head, I'm a bit like, ugh, because I don't like people shouting at me. But I know the guy. I know the guy loves me. He wants me to do good. You know what I mean? He wants me to become a better fighter. That's just his way of teaching. But you look at different people and different ways of teaching, and some people are very strict and very aggressive in their teaching, and then, like you say, you have people also that are. Look at Tommy Carruthers, for example. I've learned so much stuff from the guy. I mean, I'll always be grateful for the stuff I learned from him. Amazing teacher, amazing martial artist. When I started to go to train in Glasgow, I went to live in Glasgow to train with a man. And for the first 3 months, he's never looked at me once.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not even once, you know what I mean? And I was doing some mistakes, and he was talking to the group, but I knew he was talking to me. I knew it was the mistake I just did because I couldn't see anybody else doing it. So I was like, right, he's talking to me, but he's not looking at me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And the more I refined my technique, the more his eyes got closer. It's like the next week he was talking and his eyes were a bit closer. He still wasn't looking at me, but his eyes were a bit closer. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then one day I think it was after 3 or 4 months, for the first time, he's actually looked at me and said something to me. And it's a bit weird, but in a sense, I was like, wow, that's like, how to say, it's rewarding. That's reward. You know what I mean? It's very cool. It's a very old school way of teaching, like, but
And I think a lot of instructing is a bit of a life cycle. So most people, you start as an instructor, and an instructor will be, you jab like this, you kick like that, you mechanically move in this fashion. I think then you become a coach, and the coach's job isn't really to tell you how to punch, kick, or knee anymore. It's to strategize with you. Okay, well, if he's moving like this, you'll move like that. If he's kicking like that, you want to kick him like that. The coach will kind of ask you questions and draw out of you. So I think everyone starts as an instructor. I'm good at punching. I'm going to teach you how to punch good. Mm-hmm. Then you become a coach, which is, I know you're okay at punching now, so I'm going to question you, challenge you, provoke you more. That's what a good coach is. And then I think the final stage is being a good mentor. And I think having good martial mentors is important. And they probably will never teach you a technique. They'll probably never teach you a strategy, but their whole system, their approach, the way their personality is infused in their arts, that's what you get from a good mentor. So it's always good to acquire good martial arts mentors for what they're particularly good at. Some are really good at doing the stuff. Some are good at teaching the stuff. Some are good at marketing the stuff. You can learn all of these. You don't have to. I think that one of the worst myths that attacks martial arts is the Miyagi effect. We expect every instructor to be great physically, that brilliant strength and conditioning, have a competition record, have a street record, no medical sciences. Like it's too much. We expect, due to media and how we're groomed as children, that martial arts instructors are brilliant at everything, and we almost get disappointed when they're not. But I wouldn't expect an athletics coach to be my ethics coach. I want my athletics coach to teach me how to run faster. I think the Miyagi effect of, especially in Asian martial arts, we expect too much of people that instruct us. So picking good mentors that are good at specific things is an important thing to do.
It's interesting what you just said, because I'm thinking to myself, that's a conversation I was having with Peter Shara when he was here a couple of weeks ago. Great guy, by the way, Peter. Amazing guy, very humble. I've not met many people of his level that are that humble, and we were saying, Oh shit, dude! I hate when that happens. What were you saying before? Yes. So some instructors are very very good at doing stuff, and they'll be there and they'll go, right, you do this and that, and they look explosive. Their form is amazing. They're great at what they do. But for some of them are not very good at explaining. They might not be articulate enough, or they might have a bit of problem with talking, or some people do stutter. You got all sorts of people out there, and then you have people that are very good at explaining stuff, but they can't really do it. Yeah, we know a few like that. And then you have certain people, and there is a fewer, okay, but there are a few people that actually are great at explaining stuff. They're very articulate, very concise, the way that they speak, the way that they express themselves, and they can break things down, in layman terms, so that most people can understand. And on the other side, these people can also do it really well. They can't do everything, but I'm thinking of one in particular that's been my mentor for a long time, like Lee Morrison, who's one of those guys who can do things really well and who can explain things really well. He is not good at everything, but he's very good at his stuff. And there's not too many people that are. There is another one that I think is very, very articulate, that I consider to be one of the most articulate teacher out there. I think you're one of them as well, by the way. But I'm just thinking on the other side of the pond in the US is Craig Douglas.
Yes, yeah.
Craig Douglas, very articulate guy. He's very, very careful about the choice of words that he uses and how he uses words. And like even just interviewing him some more than 6 months ago, good while ago, I've learned a lot of stuff. He's really inspired me to be more concise with how I speak to my students and the choice of words that I use.
Yeah, I mean, a good little memory mnemonic is if you clip on your imaginary tie as you're going to teach your martial arts stuff, it's what is my job today? My job today isn't to impress you with how well I can do something. My job today is to make you better at this. That's my job today. And the more time I spend making myself look good, the more I've wasted your time and money. So I think it's always good for instructors, especially in the day of video. The hard thing is, I like having videos, you like having videos, everyone likes having a video.
Yeah.
One of the hard things I'd say, though, is that as soon as the camera's rolling, whether you know it or not, some part of your mind goes, shit, I better look good. I better not fuck this up. And your focus.
That's where you start fucking things up.
Your focus might shift from what is my job today is to make you look good. And so, I'd say that's an important thing. If people are listening and they're instructors, remember what your job is today. When you put on your instructor hat, it's your instructor fucking hat, and it stays on. And you got to hold yourself to values and standards of being a good coach, mentor, instructor. And that's hard work, because it's very easy to slip back into being the fighter or the doer and not the instructor. But you watch any kind of major kind of super coaches, if you think of like your Customatos of the world, he's not moving around throwing punches. He's all up in Mike Tyson's head.
Yeah.
Him to believe, to conceive things, to change, to challenge. That's mastery level instruction. Angelo Dundee, he said, I never saw Muhammad Ali win a round of sparring. Angelo Dundee would not let Muhammad Ali win sparring. He would give him what he needed, not what he wanted. Because he was a master level coach. So I think, when you set out to do your work as an instructor, what is my job today? Making people better. Stick to it. It's always a good thing to have.
It comes with a passion. I know that's one of my passion. I know that when people come to see me, it's like I want them to go home with something real, something they can use. And so, that's another thing as well. It's not overloading people with those Krav Maga seminars where you go and you're going to learn like 20 or 30 different techniques on that day. And it's like you're gonna go home and you're not gonna remember, like you're not gonna remember 10% of it. You might remember if you're good, if you're a martial artist and you got a good memory, that's it. So rather than that, it's like really kind of focusing on just a few things, like 2 or 3 things, 4 big max. That's it for a full day. and just focus. And okay, it can be variation of the same thing. Okay, that's one concept we're going to have a look at. And we're going to have a look at two variation of that same concept. That counts as one. Boom, that's one thing. Maybe like 3 or 4 things like that in a day. And then people are like, they're more likely to remember what you've shown them. And now they're going home with something that stays.
Yeah. Or, for a lot of people, instructors, get with the 21st century. So if you're instructing, you're like, look, we're doing 7 hours today. You're going to be knackered and you're going to remember very little. Every time I'm going to show you something, I expect you to come on the mat with your phone or a note. But, like sometimes as an instructor, we forget to tell students how to learn. It's like, you're going to be tired. You're going to be watching. We've done 5 hours worth of graph today. I'm going to show you something important, but that might not take root today.
Yeah.
But I want you to film it and I want you to write about it.
Yeah.
As I do this right now. And I think so a good instructor should be able to keep the energy. And even if the physical energy's gone, the mental energy's still got to be there. Like, okay, so you can't do 10 reps of this because you're all knackered. But what you can do is all get your phones, film it, and I want each of you to ask me a question about it. That's where master work. I'm going to show you something. And as I show you, I want you all to ask me one question. You'd be surprised at the power of telling people you expect a question from them, because suddenly their minds can't be anywhere else. It has to be there because they know in front of everyone else, I'm going to point at you and say, ask me a question about what you just saw. And I think that's where instructors can become good coaches if they know how to ask game-changing questions. Like, now I've shown you, you show me. Like
you find a way to engage. You find a way to keep your students engaged.
Yeah. And you've got to be like a good shepherd. You've got to be watching like, okay, right, I've got a third of the group, but 2/3 are drifting. They're half-assing. Right, what am I doing to stop them half-assing? Even simple things. Like one of the things I like is touch and sound. So when I finish teaching a technique, I'm like, boom, we're going to go bap, bap, bap. One of the things I like to do to make sure everyone's got it is go, right, now we got that. We're going to drill it. 3, 2, 1, boom. And everybody does the clap at the same time. And that, for me, is like, I'm going to wake up your body, your mind. It's time for business. It's a physical avatar of, or a symbol of, we're getting to work now. And it seems a bit silly and it seems a bit American. But if you think about it, like sumo is a great example. Before you do your sumo bouts, whack yourself. And that's you the spirits. That's you banishing bad spirits and telling the good spirits, have a watch at this. It's like, all right, okay, let's do it. It's that.
You're flicking the switch on. You're going mode, like training mode. I think that's a concept of of NLP as well, neuro linguistic programming, where you create that switch where you go, right, okay, now that's work mode. Boom, just flick the switch, work mode. Now I'm working, I'm at work. That's it. My whole focus is on work. Okay, work mode, flick off. Rest mode. Now I'm at home, I'm chilling. Now that's all I can focus on, chilling. That's it. So I think that's important.
So things I spot, which I think if and a lot of people watching this will probably be martial arts instructors. I think things people should work on: crowd control. The amount of times I see people stood in like a big circle around an instructor, and the instructor's having to look around everywhere, and some are looking at his back and the side and his arms and his phone. Like, command the space. I'm like, all you fuckers sit over there when you can, in this wedge, like, I want all of you looking at me. It's on my time. You chill on your fucking time. It's my time. You've got to, if you're instructing, you have to let a little bit of alpha pop out.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a lion teaching you how to hunt right now. Fucking watch me. You can't watch me from my ass. Get over, Too many instructors allow it, and the longer a seminar goes on or a class goes on, you tend to allow these little things to happen.
You lose control, yeah.
And that's why people see me and I do daft things, like I take whistles and I shout and I move people. I do that because I want to command the space. I want your attention, your full attention, on me right now for 2 minutes. And saying what you want of people. I want your full attention for 2 minutes. Put your mind on me now. Sometimes we can forget those basics of putting people where they can see, commanding the respect of those people, and letting them know my expectations. So when I go sometimes, A seminar I taught recently at Peter Constantine's place. I was the last shift on. They'd done seminars all day. They're fucking knackered. And so my first 5 minutes was, my duty to you today is to show you some interesting, useful stuff. Your duty to me is give me now 55 minutes of full intention. This is our trade. This is our bargain. You've paid here today. I will give you my energy. I've taken part all day. You will now give me yours. And so setting your expectations as a teacher is important. And I think that's where Asian martial arts do it quite well, because there's a lot of implied respect.
Yes.
We start to lose it in things like combatives, because we start to be a bit like, bro, dude, we start to become mates with our people that are training. But the problem is you start to become the friend trainer, not the coach that you need to be at that time. I think commanding space, geography, where people are, how close they are, and being really strict on things like people wondering or chatting, that's important. I would like to say I'm a really friendly guy when I teach, but I have people's attention. I don't let people slip very easily. And I think that's an important skill for especially early instructors. Manage where they are, manage what they do, and set expectations. I will explain and give you my energy. I expect good energy back of you, please. That's why things like, I want all of you to ask me a question about what you just saw. They're just little tricks to keep people sharp. Because I can't wonder now. I don't want to be the stupid person that's monging an answer because I was thinking elsewhere. If all 20 of you know that Tommy might pick one of us and make us explain, they have to give me their attention. And so you pick up things like that over and over again, but using props, mnemonics, sounds to command the space, you should experiment with it, because I find it really useful. And it makes sessions nice and memorable because it bookends everything. It's a solid progression of stuff.
I found that also, putting people in lines as well kind of help your observation as well, because it's all about your observation as well. When you're teaching your group of students to do something and they're all over the place, now you're gonna have to look all around, and you might miss something. As if you put them in line, all you have to do is to stand right in the middle, and you can see everyone. You can see what everyone is doing. And once again, it's like you got control of the class, because unconsciously, if you don't take that control of the class, it's like people start. It's not that they start walking all over you, but they start taking liberties of talking to each other, of going off the mat, or doing stuff like that. I'm looking at my friend Panikos, who owns All Powers Gym. Is As a friend, I always make the joke with him. There is a meme on Facebook that I found on the internet. On the right, it's the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, like rah, like that. And on the right, or on the left, it's the toy T-Rex from Toy Story. You know what I mean? That's him. When we're not training and we just meet up to go and get some food, or I go to his house or he comes to my house, that's him, the guy that's the T-Rex from Toy Story. Nice guy and everything. When we're training, completely different guy. And if you talk back to him or you do anything, he will. I think he'll slap you. I think he'll just drag you off the mat. It's just the type of person. How strict he is. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And every teacher's got their own style. You got to be authentically you. But I do think that people tend to fall into a teaching rut, and they fall into the same patterns and patterns and patterns. I can understand it, because when you teach, you want to show off your Gucci shit. You know that this lands well and is easily gettable within an hour, that makes people feel good, makes me look good, and gives them something useful. We can all find ourselves in that trap. So the really important thing to think about is pivoting maybe the type of media you use. For many instructors listening, when was the last time you did a session where we're just going to watch CCTV and talk about it? When was the last time that we did our session just walking to a place and talking about where dangers are? Why are we talking about dangers in a leisure centre? Why are we not all now just walking to the shop and talking? At least it's relevant. It's outside. I think we find ourselves trapped in our box, in our head, and in the rooms we work in. A good instructor should have the mental elasticity to say, today we're going to analyze film. Today we're going to go on a walk. Today I will instruct nothing and you will instruct me. Fucking switch on today because you're teaching me how to jab this morning. What we doing? It's you got to be like the Viet Cong when you're an instructor. You got to just surprise me, motherfucker! I'm a landmine. This is what we're doing today. Those kind of things keep the variety really good. There's a great documentary right now on BBC about the impacts of being stabbed, and it's a load of young men predominantly, and they're talking about what it felt like and how they were stabbed and why they were stabbed and the emotional impact and their surgery and recovery. It's brilliant. It lasts 1 hour. The value of just putting something like that on your projector, pausing it every 10 minutes and go, right, guys, what do we think about that? How did that make us feel? How could that impact our training? How could we have avoided that? Like that, though, in those are some of the best lessons you'll ever teach. So choosing different media types is really important. And having people peer-to-peer teach, we call it fishbowl teaching. So I might have attendee A and attendee B teach me something. We will all watch and assess it, and then we'll feed back on how that was and what we liked and what we didn't. That has value for everybody. People get experience teaching. Other people get the experience of shutting up and listening, because I make it my rule. If I've told 2 students to teach something, you're all being silent. You are listening. You give them respect. And I think that fishbowl method of 2-3 people are in the fishbowl, everyone else is watching what's inside. It's a really good way to end a teaching class or a seminar. Right, you teach us something about the fence. You teach us something about edge of hand blows, whatever. You teach us something about avoidance. You got 2 minutes. You got 5 minutes to prepare. You got 2 minutes at the end of the class today. And how good is that when you walk around the class when you're teaching and saying, just letting you know, your hammer fists are really good. So at the end of today, I want you to teach everybody about your hammer fist, please. How much pride does that give you? If you're the attendee, you're like, oh, thanks, mate. That's cool. Everybody else can see that and go, he recognizes when people are putting good work in.
That motivates them to do the same.
And it's such a simple tool to do. They become better teachers. You, as a coach, you've elevated yourself because you've opened more doors in their knowledge than just, I've shown you something. Yeah, you all did great today. Me just saying you all did great today is just a generic statement. He's saying Dave did brilliant today. He's shown some wicked hammer fist. I'm just picking a random technique. Let's watch it. Dave, just explain to us what makes it good. How does it work? Gives people pride, confidence. And it also shows that you as a coach, as an instructor, are not so vain to think that you are brilliant at everything. I'm saying, you're so good, I want you to show everyone that. Well done. And letting people know as you walk the floor is a brilliant thing to do. So I advise people listening, expand their teaching repertoire more by doing those kind of things. It's scary because you lose some control, but eventually that makes you the better coach because you are controlling the space and the emotions in the room. Emotional state management is important. So it's a big one for me. Peer-to-peer instruction. I've taught you, you teach us.
I like that. I'm taking some notes at the same time as you're telling stuff, mate, because there's definitely some stuff that I'm going to be using here. That's one of the reasons why I interview people, because I try to have some good people on, and I know that every time there is some value for me to take and to use as well. Do you know, I was having a chat with Lee Hasdell a couple of nights ago. Like we had a long chat, maybe a couple of hours, and we were talking about that stuff as well. What you just said, it's like it's too. How do you call that? It just becomes the same thing if you just have like one sort of setting in which you teach people. Okay, today we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna show it to you. You're gonna do it. I'm gonna come and correct you, and and then we're gonna go home. I think I'm realizing now, especially since I got interested and I started to study the work of Richard Dimitri and Chris Roberts and looking more from a violence prevention side of things, like the pre-fight confrontation. Because that's what I said to people. going to a self-defense class, and most of the time what people are going to teach you is the middle, the in-fight confrontation. They'll teach you how to punch, how to kick, how to elbow, how to do this, how to do that, which is great, but they'll completely miss the pre-fight confrontation. They'll completely miss the post-fight confrontation, the aftermath of violence on the long term, on the short term, psychological implication like traumas, and all the stuff that we can speak about in order to become a harder target. Before you even need to fight. I mean, as I always said to people, if you got all the elements of pre-fight confrontation and you understand about awareness, you understand about pre-threat indicators, you understand about predatory behavior, predatory hierarchy, and you understand about psychology and behavioral study, behavioral awareness, and red flags and things like that, the different personality disorder that you could face, and the rituals and the interview stage, the ambush, all that stuff. If you're good at that stuff, and of course, let's not forget the proper de-escalation tactics, and I mean proper in-depth de-escalation tactics. Yeah, I say if you have all that stuff 90% of the time, you don't even need to use all that. Like, you will remove yourself from the situation before that happens. You'll take your family away from that. That's what I was saying to one of my private students yesterday. First time he was here, and we were talking about that. And I said, let's say you take your family to a restaurant, and as you get inside the restaurant, you start scanning the place, as you do. You have your environmental awareness, and you spot, let's say you spot a couple over there, and you can see that the woman is crying, all her makeup is dripping, and she's blowing her nose, she's a mess, and the guy in front of her that's supposed to be her man, he's proper telling her some nasty stuff. You can see it on his facial expression that he's being an absolute cunt to her. And you see that. So you used something called behavioral awareness, where now you're like, right, I'm aware of that dude's behavior, and he seems to be like a proper narc, do you know what I mean, or a proper cunt. Like, I know I would, if there one day I make a woman cry, I'll be really fucking sorry about it, and I'll do my best to make it better. But let's say you see one person like that in the restaurant you're about to go to with your family, or one person might be one thing. But let's say now you spot another person over there that you look at their behavior and you're like, I don't really like the energy of that person. And then you spot another person. I said, that might not be the right place where you want to go and have some food with your family. So that once again, it's environmental awareness, situational awareness, and behavioral awareness all together. And if you got those three things, then you can physically remove yourself from the place, the situation, before any threats or potential threat takes place. So
absolutely, I think these are so important. I think a concept that I struggle with, I think, with self-defense is, I think a lot of it's chosen for you, in that you either will or won't make good decisions. And I'm not entirely sold on the ability to train soft skills well. Like, if you are a little bit of a nervous, scared person,
yeah,
I could teach you all about color codes and this and that. You explain all those things. I think, I personally believe, and it's not a mainstream view, but I personally believe you're kind of preset as predator or prey or something in the middle pretty early in life. And without a major life event to change that, it's kind of gonna stay the same. There's a lot of people that were prey, have had horrible attacks, and then have really made themselves robust and hard and scary. But I think for a lot of people, if they don't have that life-changing thing that happens, trying to teach people soft skill or hard skill self-defense,
yeah,
I think sometimes you're born to do it or you're not. And I think that's, as much as martial arts instructors, we like to think we can make everybody a bit better, a bit safer, a bit stronger.
yeah,
I get brought in to teach a lot of people. Like, my son's being bullied at school, and people are picking on it. And like, I can teach him to jab, cross, hook. I can teach him to avoid where the bullies are, but he's already lost. His mind is prey, and there's not a huge amount that I personally can do about it. It's his journey to go on,
yeah,
and he's not there yet. And I think it's always tough, isn't it? You can make skills a bit better, but you can turn the tap, you can increase the water, but you can't turn the tap on. The
Yeah.
tap off has to be from you.
You know what I'm thinking when we speak in terms of soft skills, I do agree with you about one very fundamental thing is that some people are born with a more of an alpha personality, a bit more dominant and things like that. While some people are not. Some people can learn that. I know because I have. Do you know what I mean? And some people can learn that easier. I agree with that. For some people, it's much harder, and I also agree that some people will never have that domino. So I get that it's also a DNA thing. It's also a gene thing. But when it comes to soft skills, I'll tell you how I feel about it. It's not necessarily okay. If we speak about mindset, access the predator instinct, the animal antisocial animal, flick the switch on and go ah, and okay, that's one thing that I have successfully helped people with that. But it's not necessarily what I call soft skills. To me, soft skills is bettering somebody's understanding of the bad habits that they have that are probably unconscious, which is not being aware, head in the phone, headphones, not looking around, even crossing the road and not looking left and right. You know, all that sort of thing to me is soft skills. Is giving somebody good personal security habits so that they become a harder target by understanding how things, understanding how they're going to be approached, understanding the selection process, how they're going to be selected. And by knowing all that stuff, then they'll change. They'll change their behavior. They'll change the way that they move, the way that they even their body language. I said to people, change your body language. Just change your physiology. You walk like you own the place. Like, don't walk like, ugh. And even if you don't feel good, it's like Anthony Robbins says it really well. If you don't feel confident, just change your physiology. Raise your head up, eyes above eye line, widen your shoulder, chest out, and chin up, and start breathing nice, and your mindset is going to change. By changing your physiology. So I think all this is soft skills because it's non-physical options, and anything that touches to personal development. So anything that touches even NLP, self-hypnosis, and stuff that I use a lot in my life, this is soft skills. This is something that makes me a harder target, and that's something that can help my student become a harder target. So I think soft skills has got its place, but you can't just rely on soft skills. That's just not realistic. That's
And for me, I think that the teaching takeaway on those is that
yeah,
only teach what you enjoy and that you're good at. Like,
mm,
I have good soft skills. I'm aware of theory of soft skills.
yeah,
I never teach it because my love is not there.
yeah,
And I don't want to represent something. But I think it's good practice as a martial artist and as a coach to be a good referral person. To
yeah,
say, you know what, I could do this for you, but I tell you who would knock it out of the park,
yeah.
this guy or that lady. And I
Who can
think
do it better? Yeah,
and that's where the Miyagi effect has ruined a lot of martial artists in that they half-ass and pretend to be good at a bajillion things.
yeah,
Whereas really, you'd be like, look, I'm the boxing coach. He's the strength and conditioning coach. He's the nutritionist. Don't ask me, especially don't ask me about bloody fight nutrition. Go ask him. Ask me
yeah.
about lumping people in their head. Ask
Mm,
him about lifting heavy things over your head. And I think
yeah,
as you get more confident as a martial artist, you should become a better networker to be like, you know what? You could learn a bit from me, but the top tree on soft skills or top, and even then that's a billion subjects, isn't it? Because top of the tree in legality might be this dude, and top of the
yeah.
tree in
Duncan Andrews for the legality.
yeah, or top of the tree in verbal de-escalation or empathy or
Yeah,
trauma. And I think it's important for good martial artists to have a little black book, and make it very clear for your students, I can show you a bit of the way, but if you want Gucci level understanding
yeah.
of verbal de-escalation, this is your man. Go learn some stuff. Come back
I
to me
do
and we'll
that.
talk about it. And I think not many people are open. They tend to refer just the people they like. And
Yeah,
that's the problem as well. Just because you're buddies with someone doesn't make them the best. There's lots of people, for some reason, because I make martial arts content, there's loads of people that I found out that just randomly hate me for no reason. The amount of people, and it's not huge, but I see it, where like I look at their Facebook profile, like, oh, we're not friends anymore. Oh, you've randomly blocked me. Like, it happens. People get jealous or make
Yeah.
assumptions or dislike you, and that's cool.
There's always going to be people like
But
that.
it doesn't mean that I might not refer them to that person. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, okay, they don't. I have no personal relationship with this human.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still recognize. I'll use an example actually, Rich Dimitri.
Yeah, yeah.
So we don't speak, and his delivery style is quite hard for me because he's got ADHD and he's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
But he's got top of the tree understanding of trauma and psychology. So whilst
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
myself probably wouldn't enjoy a
Mm.
Richard Dimitri seminar or piece of content, that would never in a million years stop me from saying, you know what, you need to look at. You need to go look at Richard Dimitri's stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's loads of instructors where you have to take away your personal biases,
Yeah.
personal preferences, your
Mhm.
friendships, and be like, you know what, you want gun grappling, go to Craig Douglas, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, like that's where you're going. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
100%.
and I think that's sometimes lost because of the Maggie effect. People expect their instructor to be good at all the things.
Yeah.
Really, you should be good at own your zone and refer well and refer wisely and encourage them to be informed shoppers of what they're looking for.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and I do that as it is. I do tell my student, go and train with that guy if you want to learn that, and and so I do that myself. Having said that, it's not to say that I'm not trying to have as wide of a knowledge as I can. I'm really trying because I like to be able to deliver to help people with as much knowledge as I can. But for sure, if somebody is going ask me, for example, about trauma inform, post-traumatic stress disorder, like behavioral psychology and stuff, that'll definitely point them towards Pamela or Richard, or because these guys are top of the game when it comes to that stuff.
So, yeah, and I think that those are all skill sets. You need to be able to coach your material well, manage spaces well. I think like all good teachers, you need to invest in your own personal development. That
Yeah,
drops off a cliff. For a lot of people, they just stop learning, and that's very, very sad. Uh, what saddens me very much is I teach at a lot of seminars, and people will very rarely find me stood there looking at other people's shit. I'll be on there doing other people's shit.
hmm
And I'd say I'm relatively well known for if training's happening, I will go to everyone's thing or as many of those things as I
I
can.
know. I've been there with you, man. I've seen you do
And,
that.
and I think so many people, as soon as they start to get a bit of reputation, and there's a lot of high rep teachers I know that would
They
just be
stop.
dead learning from someone else. And that saddens me. They might say, or they might do like, they might talk with them, but they
Mhm.
would never be seen on the map. They would never be seen. You would never see it. And I think combatives is a bad area for this
Yeah,
because combatives sometimes requires a hard man persona.
yeah,
A hard man looking shit at something for the first time ruins their concept of
yeah,
themselves. And
yeah,
suddenly, I've got an angry voice and I'm wearing my cargo trousers and I've got 7 knives in my pocket. They do not want to look a tit rolling on the floor with a 17-year-old BJJ blue belt who is
yeah.
murdering their asshole.
100%.
And so
I
they won't do it. And you're like, well, that's a shame, man. Like,
do agree with
if
you
want to do,
100%.
have a go. And I think that at least traditional martial artists
Mm,
are quite happy to be seen to try something new. I
mm.
think that, and even elite combat sport artists would be like, you know what, self defense isn't my jam. I'm a Thai boxer, but fuck it, let's do some palm strikes. I don't do it every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Well, I think in the combatives portion of the pie, that
Mm,
so much is rested on the cult of personality around the glorious leader.
yeah,
Do not want to be seen trying stuff out for the first time. And that's very sad. I think that's indicative of your
yeah,
CPD has stopped. We all know instructors that have stopped learning.
yeah,
Like their material has ended at a certain point.
yeah. I mean, there are instructors that that it depends when you mean learning. There's instructors that do a lot of reading. That's one way of learning as well. But
Yeah.
I do agree that there's probably some of the same instructors that do a lot of reading, will train with certain people, but you'll never see them openly like sparring, boxing, or.
Yeah,
So
they'll train something they're already kind of half good at.
yeah,
Like as opposed to something that they suck at.
I
Um,
just look what I just got myself. On set.
So I can only just see like a white strip. What is that, dude?
That's a white belt.
Yeah.
I just got myself a white belt because when I get a bit better, I'm gonna start go to BJJ, and I'm gonna go as a complete beginner, man.
Yeah, go and suck at stuff. It's cool, and I think
It's great because you work on you work on your weaknesses, and eventually, after 5 years of working on your weaknesses, that's not your weaknesses anymore, and at the end, you become good.
yeah. So I'd say if you're an instructor and you want your students to learn, they
Mm,
have to see you learn, and I think that's
yeah,
an important principle. If you
I
want to
like-
build a learning culture in your dojo, in your club,
yeah,
buck starts with you. Like you have to
mm,
watch me learn some stuff and suck, and that's cool. Like
yeah, yeah.
we're all gonna do it. We're all gonna suck. It's fine.
That is humbleness. That's a good thing, and I like that. And I've always been learning, and I will always be learning. That's one thing. And I didn't want to see before that. Yes, this unfortunately there are very high level people that are like, right, I'm a black belt in karate now. I got eight dan in black belt karate. I don't need boxing. I don't need this. I don't need that. Like it's like I know it all, sort of thing. And these guys will never get on the mat with you. They'll never roll with you. They'll never do stuff because they're getting at that point where, oh, that's it. I did my effort. That's it. Now I know it all. That's the wrong mentality to have.
A really good thing I think to advise instructors to look into as well is something called the 5 whys method. So
Okay.
the 5 whys is a Japanese business method, right? And it essentially works like this: you have to ask why normally at least 5 times before you get to the root cause of a problem. Yeah. I'll give a business example before I give a martial arts example. So you'd say, right, we have a shoddy product as a business.
Mm.
Why? Because it's got bad design. Why does it have bad design? Because we've not allowed enough time for testing. Why have we not allowed enough time to test it? Because leadership undervalue the importance of testing. Why do leadership undervalue the importance of testing? And you move your way through until you get to the root cause.
Budget.
Otherwise, you
Yeah.
just say that product needs a redesign. Really, what that product needed was much better testing and leadership to pay money to allow for that. So in martial arts, you might say trapping doesn't work. Trapping's bullshit. And you
Mm,
go, why is trapping bullshit? Because people will just grip you up and punch you.
yeah.
You're like, well, why are they gripping up and punching you? Because my trapping's not good. Why is my trapping not good? I've not spent enough time alive testing it. Why haven't you spent enough alive time testing it? Going 5 whys deep into a problem can
Mm,
get you to the real solution. Because it's easy to just have a gut reaction, like my grappling's not good, my striking's not that great. This is wrist locks are bullshit. And you're like, well, why do you think
yeah.
wrist locks are bullshit? And you're like, well, I can't really work them. Well, have you
Yeah.
tried them a different way?
Yeah.
They work for some pretty high level BJJ guys. So
Yeah.
why are they working it? How are they working it?
Mm,
Doesn't mean that everything can turn into a positive outcome, but asking why several times encourages the student to dig deeper into the
yeah.
answer, to go past the obvious, and that's a really important thing. Get past the obvious answers. My game's all built on this. Why? Because I'm just better at striking. Well, why are
Yeah.
you better at striking? I
Uh,
spend more time doing it. Well, there's a fucking answer then, isn't it? Like it's not.
I use that actually when I do some spiritual work, when I do some self-reflecting work, when I work with plant medicine and stuff like that. That's generally what I do on myself, like that. Reverse engineering your way of being. Like, why do I feel like that? Oh,
Mhm.
because of that, and why that has happened. And yeah, it's a good way of deconstructing what's happening to us.
And I've two, as a teacher, you need to know what success looks like. If you're teaching, for example, you want to know how many of my students are going to get a GCSE A to C in English. We should all have a good idea of what good looks like.
Mm.
And for me, there are two: retention under pressure and creativity under pressure. So
Oh,
retention under pressure is this: when shit hits fan, you can still punch, strike, grapple, stand, and breathe effectively, like you've been taught.
yeah.
I've retained a working knowledge of standing, moving, hitting, throwing, using weapons. Yeah, I've retained what has been taught.
Yeah.
That's almost like that's basics. You retained under pressure the basics of structure and force. Yeah.
Mhm.
Creativity under pressure, that's my next expectation of you. You have
Mm.
faced a problem that needed creativity to fix it. Yeah. You've not faced this before. You've not fought this with one arm tied behind your back. You've not fought this with an injury. You've not fought this without being able to see. Now I wish to see your creativity. I'm not going to teach you. I want you to be creative with your solutions.
Mm.
And so retention under pressure, I think, is the earliest thing. When shit hits fan, can you stand, duck your chin, and fire? If you can, you've retained it. Good. Next thing is creativity. You've done that and it's not touched him. I now need to problem solve in a different way. He's not going down once I've hit him. So I need to be able to write, there's a chair I'm going to hit him with. There's a door I'm going to run out of. So for me, when I mark and grade people, your retention under pressure was good. You stood, you fought, you were on balance, you were a capable fighting human. Your creativity was poor. It wasn't working, and you just kept spamming the same stuff. I want you to work it, because you think of all the best fighters on the planet, they're competent and then they're creative. You know, John Jones does what the fuck John Jones wants to do. Yeah. Mayweather does what Mayweather wants to do. You know, people will say, don't drop your hand, don't do this. Mayweather will be like, yeah, whatever. Boom. You know, like top tier craft, black belt craft is creativity under pressure. Can I create while someone's trying to mash my head in? And that, I think, if you're a good instructor, you need to say, I will need to work on your retention under pressure, basics under pressure. You've got it. Creativity now is what I want from you. Think about this problem laterally. How else could you resolve this encounter? How else could you resolve this drill? Why have you not cheated my drill yet? I'm always saying that. Why have you not cheated yet? You know, I've set a drill. Why are you doing what the past 10 people just did? Cheat. Surprise me. When everyone else walks forward through the wall of death, run backwards and pick up a chair. Chuck your shoe at his face. Create for me. And a good coach will be like, I want creativity from you, son. I want you to do it different. Do it different. You know, and we all, you know, like these high energy drills, you know, and you can run people through and people tend to do the same thing. It's always a good point. If 3 people have done the drill in the same way, but like, stop. When you do it, I want to see you do this different. Be creative. Be creative now. You know, cheat me. Cheat my drill. Make me upset. Make me cry. You know, I want you to absolutely fucking cheat. If you don't, you're not trying hard enough.
So, go on.
And that's why I really also value high adrenaline closing. What I typically don't go for is turn-based. I've stopped to do that now, because sometimes I'll get someone, give them a right beast in, they relax, then you, and you. I've tried to make the closing of most of my sessions now a group adrenalized experience, because I want positive adrenalized experiences for everybody leaving my class. So I try to do, at the end of everything, a high adrenaline, high octave closing that everyone does at the same time, because liquid energy is magic. I want you going home on a buzz, on a high. If I've done my thing, I'm knackered and my high's over here and everyone else is still waiting, it staggers the effect. So the group effect of a group adrenalizing thing at the end is a great way to keep spirits high, retention up, interest up, and then everybody goes home kind of buzzing and wide. So the value of a good adrenalized ending for everybody, especially if you're seminar teaching, really does matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, retention under pressure and creativity under pressure. If you can nail those, that's the essence of all fighting. I stood my ground, I was balanced. I fell on my back, but I was balanced. And then I creatively solved the problem in front of me. That's martial arts. That's good fighting. Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool stuff, man. Definitely. That's like mastery level, you know, when you start, it's not going through a conscious process anymore. It's not going through a cognitive process. Your body starts moving. And that's sensitivity, isn't it?
Yeah. Man, like grapple on the floor, take off your shoe and pull it on his face. I don't care. Like, do weird stuff. Be creative. Be unexpected.
Yeah.
You know? And set that, as a good coach should set that as an expectation. I know that you can palm me hard. I don't want to see that today. You know, like, I know that you can do that hammer fist really well. Why do I want to see you do something I know you do well?
Mm.
I want you to surprise me today, son. Do your exercise, do this drill now, surprise me. And I think that also puts people under better pressure as well. If you've taken someone through high intensity drills and they've done them several times,
Yeah.
the only thing that's going to make it different is I want you to do it a different way now, sunshine. You know the ropes of this, so don't give me a repeat performance. No
Yeah.
more repeat performances. What are you going to do now? Yeah, what different thing are you going to do? That expectation of creativity of your fighter, of your trainee.
Mm.
And as a coach, setting it, I expect great things of you today. I expect creativity. Don't disappoint me.
Yeah.
That gives you a bit of pride as well. Like you recognize I could put on a face mask and a drill and just jab cross my way through pretty much most things.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants that? I don't. It doesn't benefit me, and it doesn't benefit any bastard I'm jab crossing, does it? I know I can do that. They know they can do that. What's better is, right, Tommy, you're doing all of this just in grappling, just in your weakest mode, in the thing you're less good at. That then makes me think, shit, I really need to think about how this is going to work. That's good coaching for me.
Makes your head turn, innit?
Yeah.
What about like drill creation? So I know I've trained with some people that are very, very creative when it comes to drills. I'll tell you, one of the most creative person that I ever trained with is Tommy Carruthers.
Yeah.
His drills is, I've just never seen those drills done anywhere else. He's just someone that can just go boom. There is another person as well that's very, very creative. That's one of my best friends. It's Jamie Miller.
Yeah.
Jamie Miller is one of those guys. You show him something, he'll sit down, he'll look at it, he'll just scratch a few things on the paper, and in 5 minutes he'll have like he'll have like a drill in progression, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to be perfect. He's going to be reflecting exactly what he just seen. So there are people like this. Like I wish I had that much creativity. I am creative to a certain extent, but I need to see stuff first. I need to see something from one source and from another source, and then I'm like, yeah, and then I bring my ideas to it, and then I kind of got a mishmash of what I've seen, and I add my own thing to it. But some people have just got the gift of the gab to just see some movement and just go boom. I just created a drill to train this skill set. I think that's a really, really good thing. Do you think that this is something that you're either born with or not, or do you think that this is something that you can develop as a coach?
It's hard because there's probably there's two things to weigh up. Novelty and usefulness. In that, some people can come up with loads of cool different drills. Right, I'm going to start, and my hands are taped to my feet, and pleasure's been sprayed in my eyes, and I need to fight you, pick up a pool cue, fight him, go out there, jump in the helicopter. You can come up with really creative drills, but you need to know what your learning outcomes are. I'm making you better at X, Y, and Z today. And so fun, just because a drill is interesting doesn't make it useful. And you can get caught in selling more interesting than useful. Everyone will be sweaty and enjoy themselves. I'm like, that was cool. We had a fucking Nerf Gatling gun, whatever, but is it useful? So I think you can train yourself to be a good inventor of drills, but they're only good if you stick to the principles of a learning outcome has come from this. And that learning outcome might have been self-confidence or self-belief, or better upper body hitting, or it might be better weapon awareness. But you as the coach really need to know what you're making. So instead of thinking scenario first, then what we're learning, it's I want you to learn the value of head movement. So I'm going to make the onion of the drill should always start with the learning outcome, work outwards. And just because it's not cool or particularly jazzy doesn't make it ineffective. It's about, it can be good entertainment, but bad martial practice if you get over reliant on big drills. So for me, know the learning outcomes. There are more than 2 or 3 learning outcomes. No learning outcomes. There's just too many. So if you're going to say the entire thing that we're doing today is awareness where a weapon might come into play, there is my drill. The drill might have a billion moving parts, but as long as people have got better at knowing where weapons come from, the drill has been a success. And so those are important. I also think it's important to have incremental gains. So we might do scenario A.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, you, Billy Bob, at the seminar, make this 10% more dangerous. You, Joan, introduce one more variable to this drill.
Yeah.
That someone needs to be aware of. Use your people to come up with ideas because they live real human lives. There's only so much you yourself can come up with.
Yeah.
So use your students. Like, one of the best drills I do is I say, right, I want everyone to tell me about the scariest day in their lives. Yeah. And I'll pick one of those stories, and that will be the drill. And it means it's real, authentic. It's come from one of the students, and we build the drill together, and then we do the drill. Scariest day in my life. Like my mate Chris, he's in all my books. His daughter's young. He had a complete meth head creeping up his stairs in the middle of the night. He's naked. His kid's asleep. His missus is in another room. Scariest day of his life because there is a drugged out criminal in his hallway. Let's start with that. Let's move that. That's our inspiration. Narrow spaces, at night, low visibility, personal, use real stories from your real people. Scariest day in someone's life might have been some chavs shouted at them from the bus stop. That's still a viable drill. Let's work it. I think that's a useful, and it's more organic. If I use scenario drills from Navy SEALs for a group of mums in Dorset, it's complete. The worlds are too far apart.
Yeah.
I ask that mum, what was the scariest thing that happened in your life? And they might say, I had an ex-boyfriend that followed me every time I went to the car. That's my drill. Like that. That's the useful drill for the ladies in this room. So, I like what's the most dangerous thing that's happening? Where have you felt most at threat? Tell us about it. And that's why I think if you ask good questions, you are a very good coach. I could tell you a drill and say, right, there's 3 geezers, one of them's armed, smoke fucking ninja lasers, whatever. But that's just some bullshit from me and something I found cool. Asking your people about the scariest and most dangerous things in their life. What scenario in a film would you least like to be in? Even if they've not had anything personally scary. What have you seen? Oh, on screen where the man's on the phone and they're looking through the window. All right, let's drill it.
You like scary movies.
You know what I mean? Like, let's drill it. You're on the phone. You need to maintain contact on the phone and check awareness of the house. Let's drill it. What are you doing? Are you checking first? Are you looking and you're arming up? What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, those questions make power drills, not just cool shit for Instagram. Like, run, fight, disarm. Like that's cool shit, but it's like it's icing on the cake shit. Scariest day in your life was going to one stop and being followed on the way home by one weird fat dude. That's what we're doing. And for me, that's participant-centered learning. That's called, where the participants contribute to the learning experience. That's game changing for me. Coach-centered learning is, hi, I'm John Johnson, former Navy SEAL, bodyguard, doorman, fucking ninja. These are my experiences. I could make drills on that as John Johnson, action man, but they're not relevant to my audience. My audience is the boss. They're the people that have paid to have a Tommy Joe Moore seminar today. Tell me about what makes you scared, experience that is real, and we'll make it together. And we'll use other people in the room and say, oh, I had something similar happen, but kind of in this way. Cool, we'll change the drill. I think that's where you always have some good pre-ones loaded. It's good to have a certain amount of drills as an instructor. Don't forget the value of other humans and their life of experience, because that's the most relevant for the demographic you've got in the room.
So what you just said now is a conversation that I was having with Chris Robert as well, and that's what I started to shift my way of thinking as an instructor. How do I teach those that are traumatized? How do I teach those that don't know how to fight? How do I teach those that are afraid of fighting? How do I teach those that have never done a day of martial arts in their life? And that's where Chris was saying pretty much something very similar to what you're saying, where the students are the people dictating what we're doing. So there's going to be a conversation where, like you say, what's the most scariest thing that ever happened to you? Okay, let's work on that. I think that's very smart. That is very smart.
And you treat people like a good doctor. You diagnose the entire human. You are holistic. So I might say, okay, I've got someone that's very psychologically damaged, and it's going to take some time before they have the confidence to verbally be robust.
Yeah.
But I can make you right now physically robust. So I can make you look scary, even if you're not scary. So my stage one might be, we're going to do some strength and conditioning. You're looking too much like a victim. Your posture's shit. We're going to get you strong, give you some strong legs, make you look like a gazelle that's going to fight back. That might be my level 1 diagnosis. My level 2 might be, now you've got a bit of that. Now we're going to work on volume control. How can you project your voice to a room? Or I might say active listening. I'm going to make you better at listening for what people are really saying, not what you think they're saying, what they're really saying. So like any good doctor, you would diagnose, I can't fix all of these conditions at once. If I've got a traumatized, physically inferior person that's worried, afraid, whatever, I can't suddenly turn them into John Johnson Action Ninja. But in 6 months, I could make you have some shoulders. That means you picked on less. Then 6 months after, you might have the confidence to project your voice an extra couple of meters. Too much self-protection and self-defense is based on getting people from terrible to okay really quickly. And it doesn't happen. The industry is oversold on, in 6 months, you'll learn things you can use and retain for a lifetime. It might take you years.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If you're in genuine, immediate physical danger, move. Call the police. Go somewhere else. Like the 4 lessons you've squeezed in between you and the attack you're about to have, pointless. For me, these things do take time.
Yeah.
And diagnose what's good and what's right, and talk to the person, to say, look, I know that you're not feeling confident. I know that you've got trauma about people pulling your hair. I know that, I know that you've been stabbed and you're terrified of blades. So whilst we can do the unarmed grappling, as soon as we bring out a rubber knife, you turn to jelly. You need to work with them to say, this is what we can do now. This is what we will do in the future. Let's build a plan together. And that's where participant-centered coaching is. I will help build a plan for you, but I can't sell you a lie. I have to be like, we can work on this now, that later, and that later. That's my recommendation of the order we do it.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Are you happy with that? Do you want a second opinion? Would you like to speak to, I can bring in peers, So again, if you've got people that are extremely traumatized, don't try and fix it all yourself. Bring in an expert, bring in other people. Come to a conversation and bring your mom or your friend that was there when you were attacked. They don't want to do martial arts, but they can tell me more about the attack. You struggle, but your friend can. That's good lateral thinking on behalf of a coach is really important. You can problem solve in a different way. If you're really worried about raising your voice, I need to find you a safe way to raise your voice. So let's look at other things. We're going to do one lesson through karaoke, like whatever. But that's where good work is done. But this is where coach-centered learning, which is where the instructor sets a baseline and a standard. So like, right, you bastards, we're going to face smash, and everybody gets to a good standard at that thing. And you pass or fail. You're good or you're shit. Yeah? Coach-centered learning. And that's useful, especially in military. Coach-centered learning. I will tell you how to fire the rifle. You will fire the rifle this way. And I will observe you. It brings everyone to a certain standard pretty fast. People that fail that standard drop fast. Coach-centered learning. You make it or you don't. Right? SAS selection, Marine courses, whatever. You make it or you don't. Tough shit. You're gone. Right? Participant-centered learning is thinking more like a sports coach. I've got 3 sprinters. You've got a confidence problem. You've got a stretching problem. You've got a conditioning problem. I'm going to work with each of you on fixing your individual problems. So it can be easy to teach classes in a military format, coach-centered learning, and everyone will make the mark or fail. But those that fail, they're failed. They're gone. And you need to know as an instructor what you're about. Some instructors need to be a coach-centered learning person. I've set the curriculum. I've set the standard. Make it or fail. Sometimes that's good to have. Like you mentioned, if I want to make the cut for the Thai boxing team, I make it or I don't I? Like that's it. You make the team or you don't make it. American college wrestling, you're on the team or you're off the fucking team. There's a standard here. If you don't win 4 out of your 5 bouts, you're off the team.
Yeah.
That is one way to run the class. It's not my favorite way, but it is effective.
Yeah.
Participant-centered learning, especially for self-protection stuff, that's where you really have your skills tested as a coach, because you need to diagnose holistically what people want and what they need and the balance between the two.
Yeah. That's one thing for sure, man. What's your thoughts on aggression therapy?
Oh, it's different. It's different, and to be honest, I'm not qualified to comment on it. You know, like
Yeah.
I could give my views, but I feel that it's not an area I touch. You know,
Yeah.
I'm very much about my lane. My lane, what I'm good at, is helping other instructors instruct better. That's what I'm good at. What I'm good at is rocking up and saying, right, you've been teaching it this way for 3 years. Here's how we're going to spice it up. Here's how you spice up your delivery, your results, whatever. And so, like, aggression therapy isn't a tool I particularly use.
Yeah.
I think it has value. I think accessing your innate aggression and channeling that into things that are useful and your own internal power is useful. But I think the smartest thing to do with all of these therapies is speak to people that provide the therapy as kind of their main job.
Yeah.
I can give you an idea of several things, but I wouldn't want, if I was someone's parent, I wouldn't want me diagnosing their child's mental therapeutic sessions. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it has use, has validity. It's not something I'm particularly au fait with or have expertise in. But that's why I think referrals are great. So, for example, if that's something you're passionate about what you do, that's cool, because that shows then, doesn't it? It's like I like NLP, I like aggression therapy, and I like this. These are the things I like to do. These are the products I've got to give. So as long as you know what you're teaching and you love it, that's great. But for me, it's not a tool I particularly use, overtly at least. I might use principles of it. That might come out naturally, but it's not something I plan. Whereas NLP is something I plan. NLP, trigger states, kind of, anchoring these things. Those are things that I put purposefully into my curriculum design and what I'm teaching.
Yeah. So what about that? NLP. How do you use NLP to teach people to create that accelerated learning? Because we know everything is neural based learning. So what I think, the way that NLP is widely used to teach dogs.
Yeah.
So when the way that people teach canine, and when you look at it, it's the most efficient way to actually teach someone.
Yeah.
It's if you know how to teach a dog, then you can teach a human very, very efficiently.
Yeah.
But let me know what you I know that Lee Hasdale and I are going to speak about that next week. But what's your take on NLP and how you use NLP to teach your students?
So for me, NLP as a practice, I typically use physical triggers. So I tend to, as opposed to building in, say, internal diagnostic words like thrive, power, whatever that word may be. For me, it tends to be a bit more simplistic. Like I said, that we are about to learn. These are the things that so anchoring physical movements. Like, for example, if I just have I'm ready in my mind, as argument's sake. That's only at one plane. If I'm like ready, that has meant a physical thing has occurred, verbal thing has occurred, an auditory thing has occurred,
emotional as well, kind of.
So for me, kind of when I look at trigger states and trigger words, it's about making sure there is a physical, verbal, and a thoughtful thought. If that makes sense. It's you need to be able to, come on then, let's go. Your let's go needs to contain more than let's go. It needs all of you needs to be let's go. And so why just practice that little voice in the head? Practice all of it.
It's true. What you're saying right now is the principle that I'm very much into esoteric magic and things like that. And when you are creating an incantation, or when you are actually using an incantation in magic, your tone of voice, the energy behind the words, and even your look, your everything needs to be perfect. Like you need to put your emotional content in that incantation for it to gain more power, basically, to be more, for you to believe in your words better, sort of thing.
This is what Asian arts do this very well. So, for
Mm,
example, in Japanese arts, you have the position of yoi, and yoi is you're ready, you're on the mat.
mm,
It's about when I step my 2 feet onto the mat and I'm in yoi. It's not about where my hands are. It's that all of the being is in
yeah,
yoi.
yeah,
All of the being is in ready. Everything's ready, and that's why I think you need to get beyond just the verbal or
yeah,
just the physical. You can say yoi and put the exact same position. Yoi.
yeah,
Not yoi. Yoi is all of me is ready
yeah.
for a physical, emotional, violent confrontation. So I very much like that's why stepping is quite important in Asian martial
Mm,
arts. When I step onto the mat and bow, old me's there, new me's
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Attitude shift, and that's why having a physical marker off the mat, on the mat.
Mm,
When you go to a Japanese dojo, you bow before you go on the mat. When you go to a combatives dojo, you'll just pile on and you're chatting shit, aren't you? Like there's no for most part, you pile on, you're like, right, dude, cool, what we doing today? In a Japanese art, before you step onto that hallowed ground of that mat, boom,
yeah.
and that's a good if you treat it authentically,
Mm,
it's a good space to say, Tommy Moore that's paying taxes and doing work is over there. Tommy Moore that is now a physical threat is here.
yeah.
A boundary has been stepped. I've walked over. I've done my mnemonic. I've done my bow. That's my anchor.
That's
If
it.
you,
That is your anchor point at that point.
yeah,
Do you know there's another way that I like to use NLP as my anchor point, is to visualize in my head some sort of deck with dials and
yeah,
slides and buttons and switches that I push, that so I can kind of regulate my mood. I'll
yeah,
regulate my aggression. For example, when I train, I'll regulate my speed. I'll regulate my power. I'll regulate my aggression, my body mechanics, and you know, and even on a mental and emotional level, you can kind of, if you can close your eyes and visualize, okay, I got that, like that's this DJ mixing table, and I can twitch my emotions the way that I want. That's still NLP as well, but it's kind of a visual anchor at the same time. And what you can do is, as you have that visual anchor, you can create a sound in your head as well at the same time, or make that sound at the same time, or make a movement at the same time. So that now, like you say, you're anchoring yourself on as many planes of existence as you can, on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a visual level, on a physical level, on a auditory level. So yeah,
but that's why we shouldn't lose ritual.
yeah,
I think the idea of ritual is kind of sneered at or laughed at now. Like you think of a traditional arts class. There's a ritual of my bow. There's a ritual of how I stand. There's a ritual of what I say.
mm,
Yeah, and all of those things prime you for what you're about to do. Sometimes we laugh at those and think of, you can do them in a very Western way. You don't need to do them in any kind of Asian format or esoteric
yeah,
format. But the act of having rituals that you do over and over again is really important. When I'm about to fight, there's a ritual to how I wrap my hands,
mm,
or have my hands wrapped, how I put my shoot boots on, how I listen to my music. It doesn't need to be all kind of funky Mr. Miyagi stuff, but don't I think there's a lot of power in ritual.
yeah, I agree.
Self-protection, having your rituals, like this is what I intend to do. These movements, these thoughts, these actions give me power from somewhere.
Yeah,
uh, and it's easy to kind of dismiss them as hoodoo. But every high performance fighter I've ever known is superstitious as fuck. You look at Thai boxers that have done well, the amount of magic that they're wearing off with their tattoos. Like, you telling me those dudes aren't superstitious?
Very spiritual people. Most fighters are very spiritual people.
That, having those rituals is important. So I'd say get to know your own rituals. What gets you in the zone?
Mm,
And if you're a student, tell your coach what gets you in the zone.
yeah,
Shouting at me doesn't get me in the zone. So like there's some boxing coaches like, come on, you fat ginger bastard. That will not turn me on. That will not get me.
Yeah.
That will not get me. You got to make me think to make me act. You've got to say, are you doing your best work today? Are you really ready? That makes me think, fuck, I'm not ready. I need to do it. So as a coach, know what motivates your people. And sometimes the ritual is get out the ring, get back in the ring again like a champion. You know, that it sounds daft. You get into my ring for sparring and you're fucking all over the place and your tape's off and your shoes undone and your bottles sticking all over the place. You've not stepped into my ring ready. Step out of my ring, step back into my ring ready. You know, and that as a coach, that's you saying, I want you to go through the ritual of being ready.
Yeah.
Relatives, you know, like when you put that knife away, put it back like you mean it. Put it back in a place where you can get it. You know, it's that sometimes you need to work on your own tone and pacing as a coach to make things land. I'm not saying get out of my ring because you dress scruffily. I'm saying get out my ring and get back in because your mind is not there, and I want it there. You know that's, and I think that's top level coaching is about picking up on those little states of readiness. Are you ready? Are you really ready? Is your body, mind, soul ready to do the things that we're here today? And as a good coach, you should look at that in your seminars. Say, stop. Are you ready to defend yourself right now? This is the safest place I'll ever punch you in the face. Are you ready now? Yeah. Questions. This is why I like questions. I could say you're not ready, but if I say, are you ready for me to punch you in the face right now? Yeah, there's a different level of reception.
Yeah.
Because when you ask a question, a bit like preemptive striking, when you ask a question, it has to be answered. If I make a statement, you can ignore it. If I ask you a question, even if you don't respond to me, somewhere in your mind, the brain cells are looking in the drawers like, what? Are we ready? I don't know.
Yeah.
Asking good questions for me, fundamentally, is the fundamental power of a good coach.
Yeah.
Ask the right questions. And there are some powerful, I would advise, get 10 powerful questions. I'm on a bit of paper, take them to your seminars, take them to your classes. Are you feeling ready right now? How could you make this better? What could you teach me about this right now? Name a dangerous time in your life that's made you feel like it. There's some powerful questions you can have if you think about what you're doing.
Yeah. That's really interesting, man. That's like a completely different way of looking at things, man. I'm taking a lot of stuff from today, man. I really am, man. I'm taking a lot of stuff from today. So that's brilliant stuff, man. To me, I mean, I love teaching. You know, I love putting my knowledge out there as well to help people, and like being able to put that knowledge out there in the best way possible, man. It's a real skill, and not everyone has it. You've been a teacher before even teaching martial arts. You've was it kids that you were teaching? Yeah.
So I was a secondary school teacher. I taught religious studies, of all things, and I taught in youth offender institutions and in pupil referral units. So if you've been expelled, excluded from school, if you have a violent past, or if you've been convicted of violent offences, then you teach in the establishments which I taught in. And for me, that's where my basis of soft skills comes from. Working with extremely violent, extremely capable people that have criminal past track records. That's where my bit of that comes from. It's not an entire experience of the world.
Yeah.
But it's like gangster university. A lot of these players, they're learning their craft without the fear of a full adult sentence. These scary dudes, some scary times. And I loved teaching. And I think it's the underdeveloped part of most instructors' games. They get very good and proficient.
Yeah.
They think they know teaching, but there's a lot to it. And you should, any time spent investing in being a better teacher, being a better communicator is well worth doing.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would advise like people to any particular thing that you would advise people that want to learn to become like a better instructor? Something to read, someone to listen to, anything?
My main advice is to get experience with high performance athletic coaching. So take the time to look at a sport that's outside of you. Go to a badminton club, go to a tennis club, go to a pretty good football league, and observe how they do it. So get some of the skills of high performance coaching. which in athletics is nice and accessible. Volunteer at a place, go watch it, go observe it, whatever. And then I would say on the flip side of that, look at the powerful emotional states that high-level TED Talk speakers can get people into. And again, this could be it could be religious leaders. You could pick religious leaders of religions that you don't agree with at all, but they're good at getting people here. So I'd say observe athletic coaches, which are great at getting people here. Observe great spiritual leaders or business leaders that are great at getting people here, and learn from them and look at what their styles can do to make your style better. For example, just really stupid example. On Netflix right now is a documentary about David Beckham.
Yeah.
So Alex Ferguson was the iron-fisted coach of Manchester United during his time. And Manchester United at that time were the elite of the elite of the elite. So if you'd say, I'm going to spend half an hour looking at, in Beckham documentary, how Alex Ferguson made people feel like they belong, that they're part of a team, that expectations are demanded of you, you'll have got good benefit from that for your martial arts. So Musashi says this, if you're good at one thing, you're good at everything. If you master the sword, you've mastered everything else. If you're really proficient, you tend to be proficient everywhere. So look at people that are demonstrably at the top of their game, like high-performance athletes, high-performance coaches, and well-known, well-loved, well-admired religious and cultural leaders. Look at and study the speeches of Barack Obama. Compare that to other speakers that fail to have the class, dignity, emotive power of Barack Obama. So that for me, you got to look outside martial arts. Martial arts is niche. It's amateur in the main. Most people that do it are not professionals. What you can learn from them is a speck of sand in the wind compared to what you'll learn listening to a top flight MBA coach.
Yeah.
Because you can't compare the two. You can't possibly compare. I teach Kung Fu or combatives in my shed twice a week to a man that has taken a team to the highest levels of a very competitive, very lucrative sport and turn that team around. So look outside the house. Martial artists spend too much time looking in our house. Look outside the house and find the leaders, find the pioneers, and follow that Musashi spirit. The Japanese always talk about masters of swordsmanship and master of the tea ceremony. They treat them basically the same.
It's basically the art of becoming good at becoming good.
Yeah. I think like Kung Fu, hard work. Yeah. Kung Fu, hard work. Yeah. Results through hard work.
Yeah.
So if you've got good Kung Fu, you can have good Kung Fu in being a street cleaner. You can have good Kung Fu in everything.
I've just had a flash here. I can't remember. Do you remember that movie? It's about the Shaolin Temple, and Jackie Chan has a role in there, but he's not the main role. He's a cook in there. Have you seen that?
Rings a bell.
I can't remember how it's called. I think it's called Shaolin or something like that. Anyway, but there is a bit. I'll send it to you. There is a bit where Jackie Chan is cooking in a massive pot. He's cooking for all of them, and he's making the vegetable jump, and it's it's like slow motion, and it looks like that, and that's what it is. It's kung fu, man. It looks like kung fu, but like chef kung fu. I'll send that to you. It's funny as fuck, mate.
A person I'd advise, if you wanted to look inside martial arts, a person I'd really recommend is Kevin Mills. So Kevin Mills is a Kempo instructor, American Kempo instructor. He's old now, but he was a scary dude in his day, Kevin Mills. And he teaches something called VA, Volitional Attention Training. And all that is basically is putting all of your focus into what you intend to do and the output. And he's really good at instructing that. I'm not punching you to punch you. I'm punching you to have this specific effect. And I've tuned into it. Volitional attention training. And I've got a lot of time for that. Know what you want from stuff. So absolutely, that Kung Fu analogy. If you're good at one thing, if someone excels, they're often excellent people. They've got the ability to excel in many things. So observe the excellent in the world. They won't all be fully virtuous. There'll be top tier Premier League football coaches that are awful humans, but there'll be something that you can learn and bring it back. to your people in your dojo. You know, as much as you might not like Alex Ferguson and how he managed Manchester United, they were golden and supreme at that time. So you can learn how to run a group of people if you take the time to, you know, be an informed shopper. But look outside the martial arts house. You've got to look elsewhere because we're so niche and so weird and so strange as a hobby. Other areas that are a billion leagues beyond us when it comes to psychology, when it comes to therapy, when it comes to state management, billion miles beyond. Because the expertise goes where the money goes, and the money is not in martial arts. It's just not. So as sad as it sounds, the best psychologists, the best therapists, the best scientists, they're in football. They are definitely not in your Laugar club in Solihull in the Midlands, you know? So take the time to observe excellence and what makes excellence. Great. The Greek philosophers use the term arete. Arete is excellence. And Aristotle states that if you have arete in everything that you do, the world would be perfect. If you are excellent in your morality, you are excellent in your character. If you yourself focus on your own arete, everything else about the world gets better. So, you know, I think that's, if you want to go classical, that's a good place of study to have. The principal understanding of arete, excellence. What is excellence and how can we achieve it? How can we strive to achieve it? But as a martial artist, observe things outside of our normal, boring, old debates. Oh, this ring versus street. Martial arts discussions are so boring and so dull and so dated. The amount of times I see things on martial arts forums is like, people were arguing about this 10,000 bloody years ago. Move on. Like, we're stuck in a bit of a Mariana Trench that we can't escape from. You need to swim up and see what's out there and bring in something useful to that trench.
You know, when you're talking about that Mariana Trench, and you look at the type of conversation that you see popping over and over and over and over again, and I see that myself. I'm still, to a certain extent, I think I'm still in some of those conversations because that's maybe the level where I'm at the moment. But I'm looking back, and now, you know, before I used to spend hours and hours and hours on Facebook just on commenting. So arguing sometimes, but debating about all the knife stuff, all that stuff. And now it's like it's not even interesting for me anymore. I just don't have time for this anymore. Do you know what I mean? I just want to train and create new drills and do my stuff. But I look at now people that are, you can see people's level of understanding within the martial arts and combatives by looking at what they say, what they write in their comments. Do you know what I mean? It's like somebody's speaking to you about knife disarm. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know where it belongs, but you know where that person, the level of thinking that person has when it comes to counterblade. That person is still in the knife defense mindset rather than the survival, damage limitation, you know, all that stuff, which is much more closer to reality.
And we needn't be cruel. I think martial artists are the cruelest types of people when it comes to our online behavior. If you look at fucking bowling, cycling, tennis, there's nowhere near that level of awful venom. And so I even told off a good friend the other day. I told him off because he runs an amazing dojo and it's full of non-fighty people, really. They just get on, they train and they have a great time. And you're sharing McDojo life stuff. They're taking the piss out of a shit club. They're doing shit club, doing shit stuff. And I'm like, this is not your brand to be just laughing at these people. Like, you're not doing great stuff, but why is that your concern? You should focus on showing the world what your rather good, happily led, successful club looks like. And I think we have our minds too much in the gutter. You know, it's like I get no joy anymore. I'll personally laugh at stuff and go, that's really shit. But what it just makes me a bully if I share that and go, look at these knobheads. Look at them.
I do agree.
Better. It just makes everyone laugh at our industry more.
I do agree with you 100%, mate. And that's something that I got difficulties with people that do that, with certain instructors that do that, where I'm like, you know, between you and I, if you ask me my opinion about someone, I'll tell you. Like, but it's not something, I'll never trash talk anyone on social media or post a video to mock people. It's just not who I am. because when you do that, you put people against you. You might have people with you that agree with you, that are gonna laugh with you, but on another hand, you'll put people against you as well. People that might be good people that you might be agree about other things on. So it's like, I think this is, you got people that are very negative in there. And look, I'll say it openly, and I know Richard will forgive me because Richard is my man, Richard Dimitri. Yeah, and I spoke with him about this before. I said to him, look, there's a lot of people. You tend to put everyone in the same bag when, you know, there's some really good people in the combatives community. I mean, I know some very humble people that train combatives. They're not all traumatized alpha male with tattoos and stuff. They're not all like this. So it's like the way that Richard puts his content out there is very aggressive, and sometimes it's attacking people. And I've had people coming back to me saying, fucking hell, like, do you know what I mean? Richard said this, Richard said that. And I know Richard. I never met him in real life, but we're getting along really well, Richard and I. So I know where he comes from. I know that he's got a good heart. That's one thing for sure. I know that he's in to help people, but at the same time, the way that he's, putting certain people down, to me, is a bit too harsh. And I said it to him openly. I said, to me, it's a bit too harsh. But
that's where words have power, isn't it? Like, 3 words. Why not try? Right? So you say something you don't like, and you're like, hey guys, cool vid. Why not try? Blah 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 blah. How much does that give you dignity?
Yeah, it changes.
You're like, thanks guys, that's cool. Why not try? Or a thing to have a go at, or have a play, and it's about not being aggressive with it. Just, here's some thoughts. Here's some things to try. Find something positive in there. But like, you know what? Well done for you putting your content out there. Some things to try is that knife drill you just did with a bit more movement. Let's try that. It's not about, does it work when they're moving? That's what you feel, but you shouldn't say that. You should say, why not try it with 10% more movement? Let's give it a whirl. Let us know how you went. That brings people with you. That gives you dignity and class. And dignity and class, I think, is really important. You can be well known as an instructor to a certain level. Soon as you start to lose your dignity in how you speak to people, you'll be popular in your tribe, and everyone else will think you're a knob. And everyone, the people that are like, he's not moving, that'll never work, and we'll all wave our pitchforks. But you just 5 people waving your pitchforks on the internet. Words of power are important. So, why not try? Or some things to think about. Suddenly, you're not some guy having a go. You're offering value and support and understanding and empathy. And I've got to be empathetic, because I'll have people comment on a video of mine that will be 90 seconds of a seminar 6 years ago. And I'm like, you weren't there. You don't know what I'm covering. Or they'll assume, he's the guy that just does the fucking World War II chops. And it's like, well, yeah, that's part of a thing I do. That's not all of me. And spend time with all of me, you're not really qualified to comment on it. And so you can't comment on a snippet of someone. We've all been victims of people talking about a snippet of what we've made.
Absolutely.
And you're like, I might be making the opposite point for a start. I might be showing you what not to do. If you've listened without, if you played it without the volume, you might have missed actually what I'm saying. That I could have been wrong, made a mistake. I could have changed my mind by now, but I'm not going to do a public service update to say, you know what, that thing I said 4 years ago, I don't believe that anymore.
It's true. When you look at when you look at the whole picture of what you do as a martial artist, what you train, and you might have filmed something that you're focusing on this day, and so you'll film some striking, or you'll film some throwing, or something else. And then let's say you one day you put a video of you doing some drills with some attribute drill with a blade on Bob, whatever, and people are gonna see that video and they're gonna go, oh, that's this Filipino knife fighter over there. And then they'll see you, if they didn't see that video and they see you doing some boxing, that's like, oh yeah, he's a boxer, he's doing that. But they got no idea of the whole entirety of what you do, because they're very quick to judge just from one tiny little video.
They'll make snap judgment. They'll look at my bob and they'll be like, that bob doesn't hit back. And it's like, Go 2 videos down,
Yeah.
and you're watching my last 5
Yeah,
fights against white boxers. Like, you have to like, if you're going to comment, you have to shop around a bit more, lad. You know, like you have to look at a bit more
it's true.
content. If you looked at a lot of content and then said some of the things I've spotted, I'll listen to that.
Yeah,
But like a gut feel character attack off one thing, I'm like, rise above that. And I think that's where words of power, having some good words in your closet that says, I understand, I disagree, or here's some thoughts.
Yeah.
If you know how to say those things as a gentleman, you'll do well. Yeah, I think that's, and it's a skill we're all victims of gut reactions of, oh shit, oh, it's terrible, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it. Everyone should work on it. Yeah, I don't do it all the time, but we should all be working in a way where we have enough dignity to respond well and sensibly and constructively.
I like that. I think that's a big quality, and in that way, you're not putting people against you. People know that you're respectful. Have you noticed how many times when people start, you see people start disagreeing on the post? Okay, there is a martial art video. Somebody says something, then somebody else says something, and when I read those 2 initial comments, I was, well, you know, the guy wasn't really putting you down or anything like that. He was just putting his point across, but the way that he did it maybe wasn't as sensible as it should have been. So you took it bad, and now your reply to that comment was nasty, and then it created nastiness. And then at the end, you realize that they're both saying the same thing, but because they said it differently, they think they're disagreeing with each other, and now they're like, rah, they're just like, it's an ego-filled conversation when, you know, it could have been avoided if they formulated their sentence better, more appropriately.
Easiest thing to do is take a hero or someone you idolize or someone that you agree with and say, would they be there doing this? You know, like you'd be like, would Musashi be commenting on this post, or would he be like, nah, getting back to my cave, drinking some sake, doing some sword stuff? You know, you put whoever you idolize there and like, would he care about this argument? You know, would Muhammad Ali be here saying your jab's shit? No, he wouldn't. Like, you know, like he begun training, having fun. You know,
who's your hero then? Go on.
Oh God, my hero. My mum's my hero. My mum's my action hero.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my mum's had probably a greater fight record than most martial arts instructors I've ever had. And no one messing with my mum. Up in heaven, she's battering people. I can't say I idolize. I struggle idolizing martial artists. What?
It doesn't even have to be a real. It can be a fictional character, man. My hero is a fictional character.
Yeah, because you idolize attributes, don't you? That may or may not really exist. In that, you could take like a Goku, for example.
That's exactly who it is.
Yeah, I love the fact that nothing perturbs him. He's always positive. He just puts his thing into his training, and he's still got love for his family. Or you might say Vegeta. He's always going to come second place, but he doesn't stop. Like he doesn't stop.
Yeah.
He knows he's never going to be as good, but he doesn't care. Like he's in that time chamber doing his thing. So you know, and you idolize different facets and different bits of people. You don't need to love the entire person, but you're like, those bits are really admirable.
Yeah,
you know, really admirable. So yeah, I've got lots of people that I like elements of. Absolutely, I love how Bruce Lee articulates himself.
Yeah.
When he speaks, you listen. You know, if you want, you don't need to learn martial arts from Bruce Lee. And the martial arts that Bruce Lee did, you know, a lot of them might not be as effective as you might like. But as a teacher, you know,
charismatic guy, yeah,
charismatic, collected, put his thoughts in order, structured his thoughts to some degree. You know, it's you can take that and be like, I'm a Bruce Lee fan because of how he inspires people, not because how he does a back fist. He couldn't give a fuck about his back fist, but how he uses his tone of voice and his delivery and how he stands and how he looks at you. You know, like you can learn from that. You know, that's the good voodoo. That's the good magic.
I love Bruce Lee. I've always had a lot of love as well for like the it was very charismatic. Even as a kid, I was like, and I was a very, very difficult kid to sit down, you know, when I was younger. Like, and Bruce Lee was really the first person that, but my mom has got that funny story, you know, that I went from crawling to running. I didn't learn to walk. I went from crawling, I stood up and I started running everywhere. And so she could hear me all the time because she could always hear me pop, 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 pop. I was just running everywhere in the house. And one day she couldn't hear me for a while and she got a bit scared. She thought something happened to me. And I was in front of the TV because there was Bruce Lee swinging his nunchucks and stuff. And that just caught my. That's one of the. Bruce Lee is probably the earliest, most influential person in my life. Like,
for me, a good one if listeners are interested, get into the head of Cus D'Amato, Mike Tyson's boxing coach.
Okay.
Because how he and there's great kind of articles, books about Cus D'Amato and the fighter's mind. Him knowing what's good for you as a fighter. You know, starting with the fact, don't need to teach Mike Tyson to jab, but you do need to invite him to dinner, and you do need to speak to him like a human, and you need to offer him some degree of self-respect. You know, he knew how to make a fighter complete.
Yeah.
Teaching someone how to jab, cross, hook, uppercut, any fool can do that. There's not much difference in how we all teach it, but understanding the fighter's mind. That's what Cus D'Amato's about. You take a broken young man and you give him love and you give him support. You give him accountability. You know, if you don't turn up to training, you're not going to be the world champion that I know you can be, Mike. Yeah. You know, he knew how to use words of power. Yeah, so Cus D'Amato. If you're looking for a coach that wasn't a fighter, but knows how to put the right words into the right minds, looking at how Cus D'Amato spoke is well worth anyone's time.
Yeah.
Gravity in it. Gravity in that. In his voice.
Do you know what? One thing that's like when I look at Mike Tyson and when he was younger, when he was just starting, and even up to the time when he was in his prime, he was a very wild individual. Yeah, he's had a lot of trouble with anger and stuff. And I watched, now that he got older, and I watched a lot of interviews with him where I got to get in his head a bit more and realize what sort of person he was and how he struggled at the early age. But when you look at him being wild everywhere and have this killer face everywhere he was going, but when you saw pictures with him and Cus D'Amato, he was like, or when he was with Muhammad Ali next, he was like a little kid. You were used to see this guy who was like proper, like scary looking dude, and next to Cus or next to Muhammad, he was like a little kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because Cus D'Amato knew how to work his mind. Yeah. You know, if you don't eat with the knife and fork right in Cus's house, Cus is gonna slap you. Cus if you don't open the door for Cus D'Amato's wife and have some dignity as a gentleman, Cus D'Amato gonna slap you. You know, he's about teaching him to be a better man. Yeah. And a fighter at the same time, and that's something we can all try and be a bit better at. You know, if you can find a way to instruct people so they do the stuff better, make themselves safer, and they become a bit of a better human. That's gold ticket winning instruction right there. And you can't do it all the time, and you don't need to be someone's spiritual guru, but there's certainly giving people a bit more dignity about themselves, a bit more responsibility.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to tell people off as an instructor, and that's. A lot of people are afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to do that, but I think it's important. You know, if you're not paying attention, you're talking on your phone, or you're showing someone something that's not what I've showed you. I'm like, you're on my mat. Show me some respect. If you disagree with it, that's fine, but you disagree with it over there. You know, you do need to set boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, there needs to be boundary lines. You know, or wave me over and talk to me about it. But you know, we've all been there where you show something and you know that 99% of people dig it. That one guy over there is taking the piss, and you're like, all right,
yeah.
You've got to kill that. You've got to kill. You got to be over that like a fuck, because that spreads.
Yeah.
The thing about people management in that, don't let one person's vibe damage the tribe. You know, if your vibe doesn't match my tribe,
you're out.
Exit respectfully. Yeah. Change or remove yourself. Because, you know, I know what I'm here to teach, and you can agree or disagree, but it's my mat, my time now. When it's your mat and your time, that's where you do your thing. And I think that's hard to get. And I do that. Someone show me a technique. I'm like, this is bullshit. I get out of that. But I've got to work really hard to not do that because it's so disrespectful. And when you have it done to you, you're like that. You front it. You can disagree, but part of you is like, dick move. So like. I advise people as well, if you're an instructor, hold yourself to a different standard.
Yeah.
If you're an instructor being instructed by someone else, disagree somewhere else. But on the mat, just do the thing. Just
Yeah.
do the thing.
Do you know one funny thing that just reminded me? I remember as I was growing up, my father also was like an instructor, but he was more in the law enforcement and in the military. And so he was saying to me the way that you always got one guy in the group
Yeah.
that's going to be questioning, that's going to be a cunt about it. And his way of dealing with that was to fucking twist them up. Like, like just make an example out of them. And generally, you make an example out of the first guy, and the rest of the group will fall in line. Do you know what I mean? But that was his thing. That was his explanation. Somebody try to demo something on someone, and he's resisting. Just fucking twist him up, and
Sometimes it's got to be done. And people will make assumptions. I'll teach people, and they'll make assumptions out of me. I'm not in the best shape. I compete, but I guarantee I train more than most people. But I also fucking love food. So I'm not ripped. I'm not shredded in any way. I don't automatically look like someone that's amazingly capable of violence. But if people fuck with me, they're going to learn pretty fast.
Yeah.
I'm not just a friendly face, and it's important to not judge. I've seen some very capable looking people be very incapable, and I've seen some very incapable looking people extremely capable.
Look at Butterbean,
man. Butterbean, phenomenal. I mean, like you just can't do it. And so that's another thing about assumptions and instructors. Don't just focus on the instructors you think look cool or have the best clothes or cut the best promo videos. Like, really take stock of the value of what you're getting from this. People, like, for example, the Fred Maestro, who was a big thing. Fred Maestro, and it's all the promos are really wicked. And he entered an MMA competition and got prison level brutalized by someone who was a low level amateur. And so you've got to, if you're going to follow someone, try and take in the holistic picture. Don't just be bought in by the cool videos or the cool promo. Do observe. What are you getting? And I know they're two different things. The self-protection and the but if someone is giving it the big one about how one thing's superior to the other and they can't prove it, it's a big red flag. And watch for red flags as an informed student.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, I mean, about Fred, actually, Fred told me himself about this. He actually told me how that story started, and, it was something personal, actually.
Yeah.
It was some guy that was creating trouble in his clubs because Fred I think he owns a few, like, nightclubs and things like that. And apparently, they basically called him out, like in a parking lot, saying, right, no fucking rules, let's go and do it. And he ended up getting onto a ring for everyone to see. And at the end of the day, like what Fred Mastro does is it's not MMA. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, he still took his balls and went on the ring in front of everyone. So I think that still deserves some, still deserves some respect. And I know some people that have worked with him, and apparently he makes his shit work in real life. Apparently he does make his shit work. So
it's about being careful what you say, isn't it? When you're if you say, "Oh, MMA is this, MMA is that, MMA," if you're not willing to back that up against someone,
I would never trust talk about MMA.
Yeah, you're gonna have a terrible time. I don't like BJJ. It's not something I will ever enjoy. But do I think it's really effective at what it does? Absolutely. Do I think most BJJ people twist up and destroy most of the humans on the planet? Yes, I do. It's also a matter of preference in martial arts. What do I enjoy? Like, people forget that. We forget the purist principle, which is do something you enjoy. You enjoy Tai Chi, go do some Tai Chi. You enjoy boxing, do boxing. You enjoy combatives, do combatives. I think we sometimes belittle the act of just enjoying what you do. And so some instructors are really happy doing what they do, enjoying what they do, enjoying kind of wrist lock throws and these things that might not be super high percentage, but they enjoy it. And that's, that has value. Enjoyment has value. And so if you're an instructor, and you're not the hardest bloke in the world,
Yeah.
but you're making people happy and giving them something to do, which has benefit to society, then
Yeah.
power to you, man. Like, because for every one martial arts style or club that I really dig and appreciate and think's good, there's still 3,000 that are doing good in their community and raising money for charity and looking after kids and providing free uniforms, and that has so much value. Yeah, your risk of being attacked is so low in the Western world, so fundamentally low.
Yeah.
Most people will never be attacked ever, and if they ever are attacked, it's someone nicking their your risk of violent crime is phenomenally small on a global scale if you live in a normal Western country and are not an idiot. And so we over obsess about efficacy, but there's a lot of value in all the other things. Now, for me, I think it's tradition, sports, combatives together. It has real strong value, and it covers all bases. But if you just do traditional, you just do combatives, that's really cool. As a coach, just teach what you love, man. Teach what you love. And sometimes what you love changes, and that's okay too. I see so many people who get stuck in it's a bit like a band that can only play their old songs. Play your new songs, even if half the people don't like them. Play your new songs as well. Yeah. If you're an instructor and you've changed your mind, don't be afraid to publicly change your mind. I see that all the time. People stuck in the same old patterns of thinking.
I evolve. I evolve a lot. In fact, the way in which I have evolved, especially in the last year, is I'm really focusing on the non-physical stuff, the non-physical approach. Because before I was very much into how to do somebody in, how to punch, how to kick, how to elbow, how to be guttural, how to be brutal, how to be aggressive and explosive and non-telegraphic. But like right now, it's still something that I'm training, of course, because I love it. I love that stuff. But I'm really focusing on the non-physical stuff because I think that there is more good stuff to teach to people in the non-physical stuff than there is. I mean, it really depends how much you like martial arts, okay? How much you like, because bashing stuff about hitting pads and stuff like that. But I think that if somebody comes to see me and I only have 1 hour with them, I think they'll benefit more with the non-physical stuff than with the physical stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm focusing on.
And you play your audience, so you know when people step onto your mat, broadly what they're going to want and what they're going to need. And if you're teaching a seminar, you've got to be obliging. Give people also what they want. Like
sure.
And I think that matters. Knowing your audience, type of content you're going to pitch it at. I like doing rough stuff with soft audiences and soft stuff with rough audiences. I get a kick out of that. If I got a group of Aikido guys, I want them bashing each other. And if I've got a bunch of MMA guys, I want them empathizing with each other. Like give them a taste of something different.
That's it. You give them what they need.
That's all we are, really. We're chefs. You take it an ingredient.
Yeah.
I've got all the nutrients are in that broccoli, and I can boil it and serve it to you plain, or I can chop it up with onions and garlic and spices and serve it to you brilliantly.
The soup.
yeah. I'm the chef. So if you're the instructor, you're the chef. Serve good shit from your kitchen. Yes. Serve stuff that people want to eat that's good for them.
That's good way of seeing stuff, man. Like you take people out of their comfort zone, basically.
And if you're the head chef of your kitchen, don't let stuff out of your kitchen that you're not happy to have anyone.
What did you say? If you're the chef in the kitchen, don't do what?
If you're the head chef in your kitchen, don't let stuff leave out of that kitchen that's not good. If you're Gordon Ramsay and you're looking at those plates, you're looking at what's being taught, you're like, nah, that's not going out yet. That's not good. That's about having pride in your work. Don't be afraid to be like, no, we're not serving that anymore. If you come to a Michelin star chef's restaurant, he'll serve you what he's gonna serve you because he's the chef. Be a good chef.
Yeah. Good stuff. That's a few things in my family, by the way. Like there's a few traditions in my family: cooking and martial arts.
I'm right up there with Kung Fu Panda. That's me. I like a good fight. I like a good eat. Kung Fu Panda is me.
That's. Tell you what, bro. Should we kind of slowly start to wrap it up? Yeah.
It's good to me, buddy.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, man, I want to tell you, I've took a lot of stuff from today. I took some notes, and there's definitely some stuff that I'm gonna be implementing in my teaching regime. Just one more question: is there any books that you would recommend on to to improve your teaching for anyone to improve their teaching?
I tell you, what, it's not a book, but it's something. I don't have them on me right now. But if people search Cicero, Cicero, a Cicero deck, it's like a deck of playing cards.
Okay.
And each one of them helps you structure a story, how you explain things to people. And it's about putting your stories in the right order and explaining them in the right way. So I encourage people, instead of a book, to go buy a Cicero deck. And you,
Cicero deck,
yeah,
a card deck.
yeah, it's like a card deck. And that allows you for your lesson planning, for how
Oh,
you structure your talks, your seminars, your workshops. It's a really good way to get proficient at being a good communicator and a good
mm,
explainer and a good teacher. So I would say books are great, but the
yeah,
Cicero deck makes you work. You can't just enjoy it like a book. If you
mm,
enjoy a good book, you're like, yeah, I agree with all these things, but you don't do nothing.
mm,
Get a Cicero deck, it's like, right, plan a workshop on this. You're working, make yourself work, do the
mm.
work. So get a Cicero deck,
I'll
well worth the money. And also, they're great if you do business, if
mm.
you do media, or you do martial arts. Either way, anyone that has to tell a story and explain what they do and get people engaged, some of the best money you'll ever spend.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I've just wrote that down. I'll definitely have a look and order myself one.
Yeah, man, give it a whirl.
Tommy, is there have you got a website? Is there any courses that you sell? Anything that you want to plug in on here?
Best place to think. If you want to, add me on Facebook. I'm always happy to add randoms from the internet. I'll boot a couple out. I'll invite a couple in. It's all good. My YouTube channel, there's hundreds of videos on there.
Mm,
Hundreds and hundreds, probably about 600 videos on there. So if you want to get a flavor for what I'm about and what I do, go to YouTube, type Tommy Joe Moore, and you'll see all my stuff there. It's not labeled, it's not organized, it's complete chaos. But if you want an authentic flavor of what I teach, watch some of my fights, get a feel for who I am and what I think, that's a solid place. I teach probably 3 weekends out of every 4. So I teach all the time, all over. I'm going to Denmark to teach for 4 days in
nice.
next week, week after next. So if you follow me on Facebook, it's the easiest place to keep track of where I'm going. And rock up to anything. I refuse to teach closed seminars. So if I'm teaching somewhere, it means anyone's invited and allowed. So
Mm,
I'm teaching somewhere and you fancy it, rock up and go. I
mm.
absolutely guarantee you'll be more than welcome. Whether you're very experienced or just starting out, you are more than welcome to anything I do, anywhere I go, at any time.
Nice one. I know you're coming down our way to do a bit at John's gym.
Indeed, yeah.
When is that? Is that next month or this month?
Early December. I think it's the first weekend in December. I'll put the promo stuff out there.
This weekend. What are we talking about? That's not the second and the third.
Oh God, I'd have to look. I've got so many of these bloody things. That's why people need to follow me on Facebook, because
Right.
I
Yeah.
have terrible memory. Unless it's a Facebook event, I do not remember it at all. I look at what I'm teaching.
I'll ask John if it's on the second and the third. I'll be teaching in Portugal at that moment, so I won't be there. But if it's between those dates, I'll definitely be there, man.
Absolutely.
So for just plugging it out there for people that want to know, on the 26th of November, I'm teaching a car combative seminar. The first one I ever taught. We got banger racetrack cars that we can demolish if we want. And we're gonna have between 4 and 6 cars at our disposition. So we'll have a good blast with that. I think working on some boxing principles, the 5 ways of attack and stuff inside the car. Working on some wrestling inside the car, and then we'll throw weapons in there. We'll do scenarios and simulation and stuff. It'll be fun. So anyone that's interested to jump on that, just let me know. And for people that want to watch this great talk that we did again, share it with your friends widely. You can find it on the live section of my YouTube channel, which is Adrenaline Combatives. So share it, share the love, spread it, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, guys. Stay safe.